Good evening. It's 6:30 PM. My name is John Rappa, Chair of the Financial Planning Committee. I'd like to call this meeting of the Financial Planning Committee to order for October 28th, 2025 at 6:30. The meeting is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of the open meeting law. It's being streamed live and recorded. Please note this meeting will be held in person. Members of the public are welcome to attend in person. While an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological issues interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. So let's have a roll call. Ken Picard.
Here.
Susan Satori.
Present.
Scott Stocklin.
Here.
Mike Shaka.
Here.
John Rappa here. We have a quorum. First order of business is approval of meeting minutes. I'll note that in the agenda, the meeting minutes says October 14th. It's actually October the 8th.
And also, John, I think there is a comment about Scott being remote and Scott was in person, which
Okay.
needs to be corrected.
We have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October the 8th as is amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye, okay, so moved.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, White Cliffs. Stephanie and Jason, can you give us an update on the White Cliffs project?
Sure. Last Wednesday, they had over 22 contractors at White Cliffs, and well, I thought you were like, well, I didn't see them, but yeah, there were a lot of people. So they finalized the contract with their general contractor, which is good. They are finalizing a contract with an environmental company by Friday. They are down to 2 architects, and they had the window people down because the windows have lead around them. So if they had to replace a window, it has to be bagged appropriately, and then a new window would be put in. We have at least, I would say, 32 stained glass windows in storage, which they want to put back in, but of course, they have to fix around the window frame. They are down to 2 banks, and they're pre-qualified for both. They're going to decide, I believe, by Friday who they're going to go with. Both banks are requiring a Phase 1 environmental assessment report, so that's why they're working with the contractor right now. Yeah, so there's a lot of balls in the air. Historic New England, the preservation entity that we were speaking with, they were supposed to meet October 14th. They didn't have a quorum, so then they pushed it to December, sometime in December. So I have a plan B, just in case that keeps going on, who I could go with to write historic deed restriction, because as soon as Elegant Banquets finalizes their numbers and, they're working with the bank, pretty soon we will need that in writing so that we have the preservationists there on site as they're doing works with the contractor saying, okay, well, this window can stay, this can't be moved, this can't be touched, blah, blah, blah. So it is important. So I do have a plan B, and actually I have a plan C, just in case we don't have, historic New England available to us within the time
Good,
frame.
thank you. Let the meeting minutes show Ryan Maines has joined us at 6:32 PM. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
And John, sorry about that.
Okay.
Had a little difficulty getting on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so with that, we're moving right ahead, and things are looking good.
Has the select board discussed a follow-up date for a special town meeting yet?
No, not until we move further ahead with their contractors' numbers and getting that historic preservation consultant on board. And then once we have all of those items solidified, then we can move forward with a date. And who knows, it could be spring town meeting. I mean, at this point, time flies. so we'll have to see.
I must say personally, I'm impressed that Elegant Banquets is moving fast, and he even said this at one of the meetings.
Yeah.
He wanted to move fast, so
Yep.
this is good,
They're aggressive, yeah, it's
Yep.
good.
good. Any questions from the committee?
I do, just as putting our last meeting together a couple weeks ago, where we were versus where we are today, can you share with us sort of like the backstory of like how we got?
Oh, yeah,
from-
absolutely, that's a good point.
And maybe Jason, I don't know if you know, but like what's, because I felt like the lease seemed like a good deal for the town. This, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. It sounds like we're selling the property for what we paid for it 10 years ago, plus some interest, and then do we not get
So,
revenue on any of the stuff? Anyway,
oh, yeah,
just,
we would still, so basically, we would still get, of course, all of the real estate, the personal taxes, would still get all of the meals taxes. So that doesn't go away, and, you know, the more they invest into the property, the more value it is, and the more taxes the town would receive. So none of that changed, it would just be the rent that we were going to get, which was minimal anyway, per month.
were we going to get tax money before?
Yes.
Even though we still own the property?
We were going to do a TIF for the first couple of years.
Okay.
But that's off the table now with the purchase.
Okay. And so what do you think, like, got to the point, because it sounded like in a year, John, I was saying is probably too long, but if the discussions had been going on for, let's just say, 10 months, now all of a sudden at the 11th hour, the bank comes out and says, well, we don't think you should lease, we think you should buy?
Yeah, and it's because with 10 years, if you're, that was what was in the lease. It was at 10 years. After 10 years, you know, you have the option to purchase the property. But from a bank's perspective, they're the lender, so in their eyes, they're like, what's going to happen after 10 years? Where will we be? It's our investment. We're lending you the money. And
Yeah.
then with the environmental concerns also, that was a big caveat because, of course, it's a liability. They don't know, they need to, and they want to be working with the person that is taking care of the environmental concerns. And the town, of course, doesn't have the money to invest in the cleanup, so.
Okay.
So it's just, it worked out better, and it was in the 11th hour, but the closer they worked with the banks, the bank said to them, it will be much cleaner if you purchase the property. So with that, that's, we just started the ball rolling the other way.
So Steph, I heard you say the TIF is off the table now.
Yes.
Can you share why?
They didn't bring it up.
They didn't
We
want it?
didn't bring it up. They could ask for it, they haven't yet, so I'm gonna say from the town's perspective, it's off the table right now. But, yeah, if it was, you know, a deal breaker, then of course, we would
Okay,
reconsider.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, yeah.
So is the purchase price solidified, or is that still?
It's
discussion.
still in discussion because they want to see how much environmental work they'll have to do.
And that environmental is all above ground, that's what, like lead paint,
It's-
asbestos, things like that?
It is, but with excavation, I don't know if there's areas that they're gonna have to clean up there. There was a old petroleum tank, yeah, oil tank. So hopefully, it won't be, when I was discussing it with them, the studies that were done when the town was supposed to move to White Cliffs, that's like, you know, anything housing-related or work-related, there are more stringent requirements for environmental cleanup. So since this is a different use, I think it will be a lot less required through the state environmental cleanup. So that's good.
Steph, we did a 21E at that time. We did an environmental review at that time.
On White Cliffs, okay, yep. And they do have those reports, and they handed them over to the consultant that I think they're gonna go with Friday.
So, I imagine there's probably discussions that have been in executive session that you can't discuss as far as getting to that price point, but, I mean, have we put a price on the table?
Let's
or-
put it this way, we said minimally, we want all of our money covered, whatever we invested. So that's, yeah,
North of that.
yes, yep.
Do we want to mention what happens from the proceeds of the sale, where that money comes to?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So with this, we found out with the change from the lease to the sale, we found out that even if they gave us $5 million for the property, or 6 million, 7 million, it doesn't matter, it all goes to the CPA. None of it would go to the town, even though the CPA only lent us, 2.5 million, the rest would also go to CPA. So that's the new realization.
So Stephanie, just a quick question there too. In 10 years from now, if we were to sell it, same circumstance, so
Correct.
I know that was like kind of a haggling point and it's off the table, but just kind of a curiosity thing there.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yep.
Okay.
It doesn't matter when, because when we borrowed money from the CPC, that's when the law took over, and it's regulated that any proceeds whatsoever go to CPC.
Steph, can I
Did you
add?
just recently find this out, or is this something you knew all along?
No, I just recently found it out. Maybe I misunderstood, but I recently found it out.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's clearly written in the law that it says any proceeds received from sale of property acquired with CPA revenues must be deposited to the CPA. And that's just, it gets paid back. So whether it be now, whether it be 10 years, whether it be 40 years, it would be due to any proceeds from the sale would be credited to the CPA.
So our real estate lawyer that was representing us, that we hire, did not come to light early on in the process.
Jason said it
There's-
did, it wasn't early on in the process, it's when we were talking about the sale. So if
Okay.
the question was asked, and, yeah, you
Right,
said
so-
she answered it.
So initially, when this first was investigated, it was when the concept was we were going to be transferring it for $1,000 or a nominal sum for affordable housing, back when it was a proposal for Metro West Development to develop the parcel into affordable housing. And the question was it okay that the CPA isn't made whole with the sale to Metro West? And the answer was yes, because the town got what it was seeking from the CPA by getting the historic deed restriction put on the property. So that question was asked back then. It got a little more complicated with this negotiation, I think, because of the lease proceeds. The CPA doesn't consider lease revenue from a parcel that's been acquired with CPA proceeds. So there is opinions written through the DOR that say that it's possible for the general fund to be credited with lease revenue for properties acquired with CPA revenues. And it's not in contradiction with the CPA law that says proceeds from the sale of the property have to be credited to the CPA.
Yeah,
if
so
that-
just
if
the
that
difference
helps.
between the lease.
So I have another question. What are the implications if the CPA is going to get the money, the CPC gets the money? Do they have to bank it? Do they have to spend a certain percentage of it in a given year? How does that go down?
So to answer that question, it goes back to where, the general concept is that the money goes back to where it came from. And that it came from, again, and I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but it came from one of the reserves. I think it was affordable, I'm sorry, not affordable housing, but historic
Historic,
resource.
Preservation.
That bucket of the CPA. So I think it would have to go back to that bucket of the CPA, but there'd be no requirement for timing-wise for when it would have to be spent.
Okay, may I make a suggestion? When the CPC comes before us, if we can have a refinement in an understanding of exactly the process that would go down if this particular transaction went through, I'd appreciate understanding logistically what it all means.
Yes, we have been talking to Stuart Saganor. He's the director of the coalition, the CPC coalition. No, CPA.
All right.
CPA.
Yeah,
And
the
that
Community
John
Preservation
Campbell will
Coalition.
also be able
Yeah.
to address it, what he thinks that their committee will do.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
All right.
Now,
Thank you.
I do recall John in the past saying that should the White Cliffs be sold, again, this is over the last couple of years, that the money goes back to the CPC. I didn't recall a comment that the entire proceeds, over and above what we put into it, goes back to them. So that was a new
I know,
revelation.
and I think it's confusing even when you read it, because you're just automatically thinking, of course, we would pay back what we borrowed from
Right.
them, but any other, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
But we did clearly identify that everything has to go back to the CPC.
Okay, all right.
Jason?
Thank you.
But I'll make the point too, that like with the investment, with the sale, with the investment that they put into the property, the town would be collecting, the general fund would be collecting the taxes that it'll be taxable value.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
real and personal, yeah.
Have you run like any, and it may be a moot point at this point, but have you looked at the two alternatives between leasing and an outright sale and figured out like which project is better for the town and by how much?
No, I haven't run any numbers with comparison between those two numbers.
We'd have to take into consideration the value of the property at the end of the lease, or what valuation we deemed was,
Yeah, I mean,
Within our
relative to the
right.
sunk costs
Yeah.
that we have put in,
Yeah.
how many years ago that was, and, you know, relative to
Well, that's the total cost is the 2.5.
Right, so essentially the town is just getting their money back that they spent 10 years ago, plus some
Plus-
level of interest.
Right, yes.
3 or 4% a year, or whatever it is.
Yep.
And then nothing further, really, other than just some projections. I don't know, I just know when businesses look at this as a project, there's an internal rate of return calculation that's done based upon what you invest, what you get back, any
Right, and-
cash flows that are there in between, and see, you know, which one is better and how much.
It sounded to me like, and I don't want to reveal anything from executive session or our bargaining point, but it sounded like the plan wasn't going to be viable for a lease with their financing, with the amount of investment that was going to be required in the property to bring it up to being what the quality of facility they want to offer. So
Yeah,
if they walked away, then we'd have no proposals in hand.
right.
May I ask a question that I've been asking a couple of times now? Is there any chance that we can have an executive session to understand where you are in the bargaining? Or have you not had a chance to investigate? Is
Yep,
it too
I-
soon? Or is it not allowed?
So it's not allowed by invitation. The contracting body, which is the select board, could invite you into negotiation, which we've done before.
Okay. I think in order to understand better as we're moving forward, that it would be something I hope they would consider for us. Thank you.
All right. So I guess, we're on hold until we hear further through
Yeah.
feedback from Elegant Banquets Expeditions and Historic New England. But we did draft a report on the White Cliffs articles, which I'm holding in the can for now.
Okay, yep. And I'll send you just a update on White Cliffs that I had sent the select board.
Fine, and we'll add that to the minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. Next item on the agenda, the fire department capital requests for fiscal '27. Chief
you.
Parenti, good evening.
And Deputy Espaizi.
Deputy Spazey.
Hello. So I do have some handouts for you that I just finished printing up today, and that's because I try to, this is the, I'd like to give you an overview of the department, where we are, what we've been doing, how busy we are, what's going on with all that. So there's a lot of information in here you don't even care about. but there's a lot of stuff that I think that you may find. This is for the two right here.
Thank you.
So this is, I think last year when I appeared in front of you, I had mentioned to you that that was my last time that I'd be in front of you. And here I am again. How did that happen? Well, two things happened. One of which is you're meeting earlier, so I'm not quite there where I'm going to be. And I pushed my time a little bit, so that's why I'm still here. But this will definitely be my last one, because I can tell you, because I do have an idea when I'm leaving now. So we're going to kind of tag team you today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the overview of the department, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of our maintenance and what we do for our equipment, how we maintain our equipment, et cetera. And then the deputy is going to go into the actual capital plan itself, because I'm not going to be here after March or April. He's going to be here to carry it on. So I thought it was more appropriate that he actually get into that. But, we'll both be here to answer some questions. So call-wise, this was at, the report you have in front of you is accurate as of 11:42 this morning. I think there's been 3 or 4 more calls since that time. But our calls to year-to-date was 2,049. That's about 125, 135 up from last year at the same time. The thing you see below is just an example of the busiest shifts we've had. You can see how oftentimes it's not unusual for us to have 14, 12, 11, 10 calls per shift. Now, it's broken down 2 ways. It's broken down into a 24-hour group, and then it's broken down into a shift. And the reason it's broken down that way is the shifts work from 8 to 8, so they cross 2 days, right? And as opposed to running from midnight to midnight. So that's why you see it 2 different ways on that page. You flip it over, you see just a breakdown by shifts, how many calls. The next one is a breakdown of the types of calls per shift. I don't think you're going to find that interesting. On page 4, you're going to see the breakdown by district, and this may interest you somewhat. District 2 is west of Church Street, south of 290. That's District 2. And you'll see District 2 is by far our busiest district. Okay? We have our assisted living, our nursing homes in that area. We have the mall in that area. We have, a fairly significant population over in that area, so we do a lot of our calls in that area. District 3, which you'll see is, other than District 2L, 2L is our line boxes, meaning those are ones that we have other departments come in and help us with. District 3, which is be our lowest district, is our non-hydrant district. That's north of 290 and west of Church Street. So that's all the Green Street, that whole area out there. That's District 3. So that's just an interesting breakdown. The next ones are the breakdowns of the types of calls we have. Right, so as of this printing, we've had 11 vehicle fires, we've had 11 building fires we've responded to, 10 brush fires. You'll see it's broken down into incident type codes, 100, 700, 400, 500. Those numbers are all changing as of January 1st. So the federal government, in their wisdom, is completely changing the fire reporting system for the entire country. They're getting rid of all the codes that we currently use and going with plain talk. So for what used to be structure fires were 100 series, right? Fires were the 100 series. You could have a 101, a 102, a 103, a 104, a 105, depending on what. Now it's going to be, you got a building fire, or you got a grass fire, or you got a car fire. So they're condensing these multiple different types down into smaller bite-sized pieces. And the idea is it's going to be easier to analyze, and we will have access from the fire department immediately to across the country. So I can look tomorrow and see what Shrewsbury's doing for calls, what Westboro is doing for calls, what they're trending. Are we seeing trends across our region for cooking fires? And if so, why are we seeing those trends, and what can we do about it? So that's the idea, to try and make things a little bit better for us for planning and operations. So I'm going to take you all the way down through to page 9. That's the breakdown by day of week. I'd always find that interesting. So right now, the busiest day of week is Wednesday. The busiest day for calls is Wednesday. And the slowest day for calls, for some reason, is Friday, because Friday last year was higher. People always ask me, when's the busiest time of year? What's your busiest time of day? What's your busiest days?
Sunday might be your quietest.
Yeah, Sunday's at 280, I'm sorry, Sunday's at 262, right? And so we're all over the place. That'll change. It just depends. It depends. The next day just shows, slip shows by time of day. On pages 11 and 12, you'll find those interesting. Those are our, if you go, not the top one, but you go down where it says aid received. Aid received is any aid we receive from any of our mutual aid departments. There's two types of aid we receive. There's automatic aid and there's mutual aid. The difference is automatic aid does not require a special request by the officer in charge. Automatic aid is sent based on the call type. So if we have a reported building fire in town, automatically Marlborough, Westboro, depending where it is, could be Berlin, could be Southborough, and Shrewsbury are all en route. Automatic. So on the tone, they tone us, the other departments are listening, they'll either start sending people or they'll get it as soon as they get a call from our dispatch. So that's automatic aid. Mutual aid is when we've exceeded everything that we can do. We've used all of our apparatus, all of our people, we need more help. That's when we go with mutual aid. So the first one is aid received, and then on the back of that is aid given. And it doesn't balance out 100% all the time, but it's pretty close. And let me give you an example. So if you look at Westboro, total aid received from Westboro is 59, right? Total aid given to Westboro is 65. So a difference of 6 calls. So that shows we're kind of equally balanced in what we're doing. The next page shows all the permits we issue, or we've issued to date, I should say. You can see we give a lot of burning permits, and we give a lot of 26Fs. 26Fs are when you sell your house. When you sell your house, you have to get a inspection by the fire department that says your smoke detectors, your CO detectors are working, or your banks won't finance you, right? That's what 26F and a half are. So we come out and we do those. The deputy does most of those, but if he's not able to, then we also have the shifts do it. Flammable storage you'll see is pretty high. We do quite a few of those, and hazardous material storage is fairly high. The next ones I'm not going to get into super deep. It's simply our inspections that we do and the breakdown of them. Everything from inspections to plans reviews to consultations to special types. I want you guys to have these so you can review them. And if you have questions, please feel free to drop me an email and I can at least clarify it for you. The last page is interesting, and that's the number of calls that each individual, these are just our career line personnel, have gone on. And you'll see the busiest guy has gone on 494 calls. It's a lot of calls. He also works a lot of shifts, and he also does a lot of callback. He lives in town. So if he's off duty and we need help, he's one of the first one that comes back to help. The lowest one you'll see is down to 173, or actually 118 is what Mr. O'Connell is. That's because he was just in the fire academy. So he spends his time at the fire academy. He's not around to do calls, so he has a little bit less calls. But we track these to see, do we have people that are being overtasked? Do we need to move some shifts around? Are we not staffing properly? So that's why we track all those. One of the members, I think it was Mr. Shaka, made a comment about how important data is, and I couldn't agree with him more. I think if you can't justify what you're asking for, show the calls that we're doing, or show you why I need these, then there's a problem with me, right? So I am a data geek. My guys hate me because of it, but I really feel it's important. So before I go into our maintenance thing, is there any questions about the general, how busy we are, what we do, et cetera?
Are your newer team members from the SAFER grant, if you look at that last page,
Are they making an impact?
I'm saying, are they doing less hours than the guy at the top?
Yeah, because most of them were in the academy,
Okay.
but not all of them. All right, so if you look at, so most of the ones at the bottom are SAFER personnel.
Okay.
Because most of them were in the academy or in training. And it didn't start to March. These numbers go from January 1 through today. Any questions? If not, I'll go on to the next one. All right. So our maintenance program, we feel we are very fortunate that the citizens of this community give us nice apparatus and equipment to work with. When I say equipment, I mean everything from hose all the way down through chainsaws and generators, turnout gear. So we have a fairly robust maintenance program in place. I'm going to focus primarily on our apparatus program and what we do, and if you have questions about something else, we can talk about it, right? So we have an in-house apparatus coordinator. That is Captain Pat McManus. He's responsible for everything at the officer level for apparatus. He coordinates everything up there. Below him, we have two in-house, now I'm going to call them mechanics, although one of them is a certified diesel mechanic and the other one is a firefighter that's been trained and taken classes in some specialty stuff. So they don't do necessarily heavy mechanical work, but they do a lot of work. And then below that would be firefighters. So our one firefighter Peters, Jeremy Peters, coordinates most of our maintenance program. So, and because these are specialty apparatus, they have a lot of specialty things that need to be done to them. For instance, every October, every engine, so every truck with a big pump on it, so the engines, the tanker, the tower, and the rescue all have to have their pumps tested. It was supposed to be done yesterday. The guy was on his way in and he got sick, so he canceled. So we have to reschedule. But every October, November, we have those done. So they'll come down and they test the pumps every year. After they test the pumps, we then have to decide if we need maintenance on those pumps. And that's scheduled based on the test. Every June, we have to do a full aerial test, meaning our aerial ladder has to be tested. Our ground ladders is tested at that time as well, but our aerial ladder is tested, and it goes down to Greenwood Fire Apparatus in Attleboro because that's where we purchased it from. They do the test, and they do the filter work on what's called the Skybox. The Skybox is that big, is the platform we operate out of. Once we get into some of that technical stuff, that is not something we want anyone that is not certified and using and working with all hydraulic lines and knowing how everything works up there, working with it. So that's all done down at Greenwood. In-house, all of our oil changes for our larger apparatus are done by Tri-State, and they do it in station. So what happens is, instead of me having to pay someone to take our trucks back and forth to Tri-State or a different vendor, they bring a truck to the station and they do everything in the station. Saves us money in the long run. The trucks don't have to go out. All we have to do is move trucks around to different bays. It works out really well for us. The smaller apparatus, the ambulances, the cars, the smaller things are done in-house by our two mechanics. They do all the scheduled lube, oil filter, greasing, that kind of stuff. Our mechanics are able to grease the aerial ladder. They do that in the 6 months off of when it's done down at Greenwood. So that way we maintain it in good condition all the time. We replace tires on the ambulances normally biannually, mainly because the mileage on the ambulance goes crazy. We do, one of the reports, and I didn't run it for you tonight, just our loaded miles year to date is about 9,000. That means just our miles from the patient's house to the hospital's 9,000 miles. So double that coming back, and then all the response and everything else that they do around town. Okay, so those get changed biannually. The other things, the engines and all that are inspected, and when those tires show any wear, those are when those are changed. We do bring in 495, which is another vendor that we contract with, to do all of our inspections in-house for the same reason. They can come in, do all of our inspections every July, August without us having to send something out, go in to get it, right? So they do it all in-house. We do have some specialty vendors that we utilize. One of them is Foxborough Motor, what do they call it? Motor Squad, which is the Foxborough Fire Department. So let me explain how that works. So we were going to different vendors around the area, and we're not always, it's difficult for us to get a fixed shop rate when it's going out to different vendors all the time, right? And if a truck needs to be repaired, I don't necessarily have time, if it's an emergency repair, to hang on, let me shop this around to get it fixed, right? So the deputy had previously worked with Foxborough, and Foxborough had started their own motor pool or motor squad to repair their own apparatus. And the gentleman that was with them talked the chief into expanding this to actually start bringing in other departments. We're one of the departments that goes down there. We have a contract with them, and we worked it out with through finance and everything. So we have a fixed shop rate, and we're also having an EVT, which is an emergency vehicle technician, work on the trucks, as opposed to just somebody who's worked on a trash truck, right? So the people that work on the trucks are experts in working on trucks on fire trucks. That's what they do. They repair emergency vehicles. So our ambulances go down there if they're not under warranty. Our engines go down there and this is for heavy lifts. This isn't for things that we can do in shop, in-house. These are for heavy lifts. They go down there. Occasionally, we will use 495 if we need to, if we can't get a truck all the way down to Foxborough, either because we have to tow it down there or it can't be towed down there. We may stay with a local shop, but a lot of our work is down at Foxborough. We have found that to be a really great program because we have a great relationship with the mechanic down there, and we know that he's going to, because he's a firehouse mechanic, he's not going to try and take advantage of us. He knows the process we have. He knows the budgets that we have. He actually is really great to work with. For instance, we had a vehicle down there that needed some work. And he said, look, I've done this to it. I don't want to put any more money. I wouldn't recommend you put any money into it until I can determine whether or not there's a problem with the head gasket. So he actually stopped us. I don't want to put any more money into it. Let me take it and test it. Test it, gets back to us in a couple of days. Head gasket's good. You're not going to have this huge build. Let's go ahead and do this now. So to me, that in and of itself is worth its weight in gold because we know that he's taking care of us. So very robust maintenance program. Every month, those two mechanics I mentioned go through every truck. So they go through all the trucks. They look at everything. They're the ones who maintain the oil levels. They're the ones who maintain the antifreeze levels. They're the ones who look at everything to see and make sure that things are going the way they're supposed to. And if we have a breakdown, they're the two that are called immediately, and then they either reference us to someone else or they come in normally first, troubleshoot, and then send us to someone else. So we do everything we can to try and maintain that cost. Year to date, we're sitting at about $45,000 since January 1 of 25 for our maintenance costs right now for all of our, and that includes everything. That's oil changes, that's inspections, that's repairs, that's everything year to date, which is
That's the whole fleet, crew
which is
chief.
pretty good. That's the whole fleet right now. Now, the way our fleet gets repaired, and this is important, it's split up. So our fire apparatus, that repair gets charged to the general budget. So that is, which is funded by the taxpayers. Our ambulances, the rescue, and the squad get charged to the revolving account because those are primarily EMS or rescue vehicles. And that is 100% funded from fees, from ambulance fees. So there's no impact on that side. So what gets repaired where, it's really, we have to make sure what truck we're looking at and where it's going to, and we just have to keep track of that, which our admin does an amazing job, and so do our mechanics, and that's how that's all done. So any questions about our program, how we have things scheduled, how we keep track of them, how we follow it?
I do. Do emergency vehicles like the ones you're describing ever come with a factory warranty like cars do?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
some of our vehicles must.
Very,
covered.
very much so. But a great example is our ambulance. It just, so Medic 1, just had to have a replacement of an electrical part. And as your typical warranties are, it's not bumper to bumper, okay? But it's warranty drivetrain, pump, certain things are warranted. This one part wasn't warranted. It is a specialty part that can only be ordered from the people that make the ambulances, which isn't the same company that makes the truck. The truck is a Dodge, but the ambulance is made by a different corporation who just mounts it on there. It took us forever to get that one part, and we had to pay for it because it wasn't included in there. But yeah, any recalls we get, anything that's under warranty, we do the same thing with our with our equipment we buy. So when we buy our stretchers and our auto loads for the ambulances are about $50,000. Okay, that comes with a warranty, and we also buy after that a warranty because it's much better for us to go that way, and that's how we do things for that. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, first off, thanks so much for the data. You have us drinking from a fire hose, literally.
I do that. I apologize.
So definitely some things to digest there, but thank you for that. That's helpful. I'm curious, when we do reciprocal aid, is there any monetary element to that for either party, for when we're giving out or we're receiving?
So that's a great question, and the answer is kinda. So, and what I mean by that is, we have an agreement with Westboro, because we work so closely with Westboro, that if we need to do what's called a paramedic intercept with either one, we don't charge each other. because we just work with each other so much. If I do a paramedic intercept with Berlin, in other words, Berlin needs ALS level, they need a paramedic, then we charge them for that medic. Actually, what we charge them and they charge the patient. We can't charge the patient, we can only charge the community. So for those, we do. For anything else, we don't. We belong to these mutual aid, we belong to the Mass Fire District 14 mutual aid, and we belong to a statewide fire MOB, which is, we all agree that we will help each other out when we need each other. What's that?
Transports. There is crossover with that.
There is, yeah. So the answer is only if it's a paramedic intercept do we do it, and then they can charge us too. But we don't normally call for paramedic intercepts because we have paramedic level.
Sure,
But other agencies around us often do.
sure, okay, well, that's helpful, because it looked like, in some cases, we're giving more, in some cases, we're getting more.
Yeah. So
Wasn't sure how that.
what you'll notice, Mr. Shaka, is on 290, we do a boatload to Marlboro on 290 because we cover 290 from Solomon Pond to 495. Why? Because we can get there first. Okay. When we get there first, who takes the patient? We do. Who gets the billing? We do. So you have to look at that as well. When we do the transport for them, the billing comes to us. If we go to Westboro and we do the transport, the billing comes to us. If Westboro comes to us and they do the transport, then they get the billing. And I can't control what their billing rates are. They can't control what our billing rates are. Those are our own individual rates. But yeah, so that's another way we get income.
Another question is I'm curious, with regard to the data on all the calls, what has it been in terms of trending? Are you seeing that the calls have been level based on population year over year roughly? I mean, is this common, or is this spiky? Is it pretty?
Great question. Going back, and I can print out the report and I'll email it to the committee chair, and if he wants to send it all to you. I go back 6 years. I trend that back 6 years. Where the population isn't necessarily
relatively,
increasing that much, but what it's driven by is we're living longer, but not necessarily healthier. And what I mean by that is people are living into their 80s and 90s, but they're on multiple meds, they have multiple comorbidities, and we're transporting those people a lot. I also break that down, and I'm happy to send that to you, by the age of the people and the gender of the people that we, and the select board gets us every month. And without question, we are transporting people 50 and up, and a lot more women than we do men at those ages. It's really interesting.
Susan has a question, Chief. Susan Satori.
Hi. I may have missed it and I apologize. You called it, what was it, an aero ladder? You send that out for
Our
maintenance.
aerial ladder, our aerial?
What do you use for backup?
Oh,
when
great
that's gone?
question.
How long's it gone for?
We don't have one. And this is everybody around us. So every morning, Fire District 14 goes on and calls all the people in the fire district. And they say, what's your availability? And it's either 1 and 1, 1 or 0, right? So that means how many engines do you have available and how many towers do you have available? It's not unusual for me to get a report after that we don't have very many, that we have a lot of towers out of service. Hudson has 1 tower. Shrewsbury has a tower. Marlboro has 2?
2 towers.
2. We have a tower and they have a straight stick, I think.
Nope.
Right? No, I have
They
2
both
towers
towers
now?
now.
Okay. Right. So it's not, and Southborough has 1. So we cover for each other. So what happens is, if our truck's going to go out of service for, let's say, 2 months, we will pick up the phone, we'll call Chief Purcell over in Westboro and say, look, instead of sending an engine on the auto aid, will you please send a ladder on the auto aid? They'll make a note, and then the ladder comes automatically as opposed to the engine coming automatically. We do the same thing with them. We go, whenever theirs is out, we go with them with the ladder as opposed to an engine, because the ladder is that big, expensive piece of equipment. And departments just don't have a ton of them. It's a specialty truck that when you need it. But when it goes out, unless you're a Worcester or a Boston, you don't have towers sitting in reserve. You just don't.
Have you ever been in a position when it was a problem for you?
I have not, because again, we have amazing mutual aid partners. So
Okay, great.
So if I need something, seriously, I call Pat Purcell. I said, Pat, I'm down a tower. He goes, okay, we'll move you up. And he does the same thing with me. Hey, we're down. Yep, you got you, we got you. Yeah, can you do automatics instead of mutual aids? Yep, just let us know, because we all know we're all in that same thing. Just like when we were down to one ambulance, we don't provide, we have 3 ambulances. If for some reason 2 of them break down and I'm down to 1, we loan each other ambulances. I had one, I don't know if you guys recall, from Maynard last year, because we were down.
Yep, I saw that.
So that's how we help each other out.
I have a question in regard to the revolving account. You said that you pay for maintenance out of there. Do you get to use the revolving account entirely for your department? Or does it then end up someplace else in the general fund?
I'm sorry, you're taking away the deputy's thunder he's going to have for his presentation
No,
later.
take it now.
So the way it works, and Jason, if I'm wrong, throw something at me. So on July 1 of every year, we have a formula that finance came up with 10 years ago, 12 years ago, however long ago. And that formula goes through and says this much money, this year I think it's $417,000, right around there, comes off the top of our revolving account and goes to the general fund to help offset taxes. So that's 400 and, is that pretty close?
It's in the high threes to.
Yeah, this year's 4, I think, yeah. Okay.
But anyway, I wasn't going to throw something at you,
Yeah.
but you're mostly correct. That formula, that was the amount that has been used to calculate that amount for any period of time. It was really just to acknowledge that there's money being billed for these medical calls, and it underwrites the fire budget. And that's how we get to the number, by using this
It's
formula
50%
year
of this,
after year.
80% of this, and all
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of a complex formula. It's like this much of training, this
Yep.
much of.
Yep.
It's, the cost of one firefighter is paid for from the.
Right, a certain percent of the training hours, but the other training hours, a certain percent of overtime, right? So we have that, and then we have direct charges to the revolving account as well, that we, which is like the billing and all that,
And-
which is the, that kind of stuff.
So what
I
you're
was-
telling me is that the ambulance monies that go into the general fund do offset the fire department and not any other department?
Correct, yeah.
Well-
So it doesn't offset any other department, right?
Well, what we give back into the general fund is used towards
That goes into the general fund.
whatever you need to use it for.
Well, yeah, it's.
So
I
it
mean,
does, so the split that we have is the money that we keep offsets our own budget with the overtime, the training, anything that's EMS related. That money off the top on July 1 that goes into the town, that helps offset everybody else,
It goes into the general
whatever they
fund,
need it
so I
for.
don't know, then Jason applies.
I mean,
it how he needs to.
obviously, if the fire department's budget's
Yep.
$2.5 million or in that neighborhood, if we only transferred in 300, they still would need 2.5
Yep.
million. So
Yep.
they would have more in their revolving fund. Where that formula came from was years ago, and it was developed and I don't want to bore people with all of the legal mechanisms of this, but prior to municipal modernization in 2016, there is an upper limit to how much each department could spend from a revolving fund, and that was limited to 1%. And that 1%, this department running an ambulance service through a revolving fund was higher than that. So we figured out a way around that. Was a legal mechanism would be to put those costs into the general fund in their budget. So we increased their budget by typically things that were guaranteed to happen over the course of the year, paying payroll and salaries and so forth. So that's where the formula came from originally. Since municipal modernization in 2016, the law for revolving funds no longer has that cap on it. So it's simply the limit that's voted at town meeting is what is allowed to be spent. So that formula is not as necessary as it used to be in the past, but that's where it came from. And we followed the same practice, even though that prohibition against going above 1% of it.
It's all on my spreadsheet, so it just figures itself, so.
Chief, Ryan's got a question.
If I could just have a follow-up on that.
Okay?
Is that all right,
That's
Ryan?
fine.
Sounds good, Susan.
All right, thank you. Are you comfortable with that practice now? Are you happy with the practice and you will continue with it? Jason?
I'm comfortable with it.
Every department I've worked for as a chief officer, this is what we've done.
Okay,
Yeah, every department I've
All
worked
right.
with, there's been a X percent that comes off the top and goes back to help offset, and then the rest is, not the rest, but then we're able to direct charge to it as well.
I mean,
and then I'd just like to make an editorial comment. Jason, I think backfilling with history is helpful. We have so many new members on so many committees in town. I think it's important to understand why we have certain practices and how we got there. So thank you. I'm glad that you're here to give the historical context to all of this. Ryan, it's yours.
Thanks, Susan. So the first thing is kind of just, not necessarily related to budgets, but hearing about what Foxborough does in terms of repairing the emergency vehicles and thinking about how good of a mutual kind of assistance program we have in this area, is that something we've ever given any consideration to as launching our own? Because I'm guessing it's profitable and could help offset more of the budget. So just wanted to kind of, give you guys maybe something to think about there.
That's a great question, but it's a matter of right now, we don't have space to work on our own vehicles, let alone to work on any other people's. They actually have a whole section over there at their station where they do it.
And in terms of the new station, do we have any capacity there? Or?
We may, and it's something we could look into at that point in time.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
thinking it makes sense because rather than having like Hudson, Southborough, Westborough, hoof it down to Foxborough, wherever they go, we're right there. We already work well together. And I'm guessing there is a profit margin involved. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be in that business. And then in terms of, so you talked about the calls and there's a lot of data and things like that. And we have 10 years worth of like your projections going out. And obviously with an aging population and increasing population, how far down the line do we get till instead of just replacing equipment, we're starting to add new equipment that's incremental?
Great question. Now, I've always done a 10-year plan, so that when we changed to the 10-year plan, it wasn't anything new to me, because I've always found it works well for me. Right now, the equipment we have is serving us for what we need. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that we're not looking down the road and saying, okay, at some point in time, we're going to need X, Y, or Z. We have 7 firefighters on duty. Those 7 firefighters cross-staff 2 engines, a tanker, the tower, the squad, 2 ambulances. The 3rd ambulance is a mechanical backup, the forestry, right? So I would have to put on a whole bunch of more people before I ran out of apparatus for them to staff. The only thing I could see, I hate to say this because the deputy's probably going to be mad at me. The only thing I see right now that we may need sometime in the future to start adding is ambulances, because that's really where we're getting slammed. And that's the vehicle that takes a lot of abuse.
Gotcha. And in terms of ambulances, I'm guessing it's not just population, it's also probably traffic, because I live pretty close to Route 20 over here, and there's at least a few pretty brutal accidents, I feel like, every couple of weeks. And so in terms of people coming through Northborough, is there any data you have around that supporting traffic conditions and ambulance
do.
calls and things of that nature?
So I track, one of the things I track is all of our patients that are outside of Northborough. So any patient that we transport that is from outside Northborough, I can tell you where we transport them and what level. Was it an ALS call? Was it a BLS call? So I track all that. I can then look and see, was it related to a motor vehicle accident? So it's interesting, while we have when you drive by an accident, you go, oh my gosh, look at that, it's horrible. Vehicles have been designed, I think mostly because of NASCAR, I think had a lot to do with it, where the vehicle
Yeah, the
takes the
shell.
damage and the people walk away. So I've rolled into an accident and gone, oh, this is going to be a fatal. There's a person standing there waving at me, and I'm like, well, how could this be? This is impossible. Then I've rolled another one to go, this is not much, and it is. It just depends on where they were hit. So a lot of our out-of-town people are employed by businesses, visiting other people, or just in town for maybe up at Shops Way doing something. We transport a lot of, I don't know why, we transport a ton of people from Wegmans. We spend a lot of time at Wegmans. I don't know why. And then a lot of people that go to the walk-in clinic. Okay, so a lot of people will go to 333 Southwest Cutoff, or they'll go to the new pediatric one, and then we transport. So those are often outside people that go to there and we transport.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Also, I'll take note to stay away from Wegmans. Dangerous place.
I don't know. I'm telling you, it's crazy there. And there's a couple other places like, why are we there all the time? I don't understand.
From a,
May I ask a question, a follow-up to Ryan's? In regard to us getting into the business of doing repairs, it seems as if you feel we don't have the space. If you had the space, is it something you could do or would be interested in doing?
Well, the first thing we would have to do is look into what it's going to cost us to train up mechanics to do it. Again, our mechanics are not EVTs. So we would have to either, the gentleman that works in Foxborough, that's what he does. Our mechanics are firefighter paramedics that step up and do the mechanic work while they can, while they're on shift. Whereas Ian down in Foxborough, he's a Monday through Friday guy, and then he has one, how many's got working for him?
He started out with one. I think he's got two or
I think
three
he's
now.
got, that work for him and do just mechanic work. So that, we would have to look at that, look at the cost of that, look at the training cost, look at the, what's it gonna cost us to bring those people on and how it's gonna benefit us, and then make that determination from there.
And parts.
Okay, because I do believe that before we let the current fire station go away, it's a perfect place to be able to do repairs if it's something you thought could be and would be profitable and would help you be able to maintain your staff needs and buying some of the very, expensive equipment that you all need.
One other operational model that I have run in a previous department was, we had our public works department had a very robust mechanical staff, and they had EVT, they had emergency vehicle technicians there, they had people that just changed oil, they had people, right? So they had upwards of 5 or 6 or 7 people that worked just in that division. They helped plow when it snowed, but everything else they worked in that division. And I had 2 mechanics that were assigned, this is when I was the assistant chief in Merrimack, New Hampshire, 2 mechanics just assigned to us, right? So they'd come to me once a week, here's the list, let's go, we'd send, and they did our work.
I guess it comes down to how saturated that market is. I mean, is there a backlog when we have a repair need? Can we get it into Foxborough with short
Sometimes.
notice? Or is there?
Sometimes.
Is their bench running at 80% capacity or 100% capacity?
Great question.
They,
Sometimes we get it right down there, sometimes it's like, I can't get it in the door.
Yeah, the good thing about the Foxborough setup is that because he's a firefighter and he knows we need a critical apparatus, so that he won't, most places bring it, and then 3 days later, we're like, have you looked at it? Nope, still sitting there, still sitting there. He'll pretty much say, I can't get to this, and when you get it there, he takes it in.
Yeah.
But as for backlog, I mean, we have pretty good luck with it, but, at times he just can't take it, and that's when we outsource to some of the other
If he
departments.
can't take it, we outsource locally.
Yeah, I mean, if from a P&L standpoint, if it could be cash flow positive and we have a mechanic that's in-house on duty, we're top of the line every time for repairs, and we can help our neighbors by being a shop that's in closer proximity, then, I mean, sure, I think
It's
that's
a great concept.
fantastic
It truly
idea.
is. And Ian convinced the chief down there that I'd have to ask Chief Boutini or somebody how he convinced him to do it, but.
It actually was the other way around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have a very, very progressive fire chief, Chief Kelleher down there.
Oh, Chief Keller is down there.
Yes,
That's right. I
very
forgot about Chief
progressive, and
Keller.
that was kind of his brainchild. And he poached Owen from a department because Owen, that
It
was
was a
his,
nearby department.
yeah, very nearby.
yeah, very nearby.
That was his background, so,
Yeah.
so that's how that got started. And then I don't think he envisioned it to take off like it did, but.
Yeah, it's really gone much bigger than they anticipated.
Well, being in control of your own
May I
destiny is
just make
nice.
a suggestion? That it doesn't sound like it's an idea that we should throw away, that we should take a look at it, as long as we're going to have a facility before it disappears.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you that, is Southborough still taking their trucks down there?
A lot of people, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
too.
there's a lot of people around us that are taking their trucks to Foxborough. So it's not unusual. Yeah, but you're right, Sue. It's not something we should just, it's a great idea. It's something to really consider.
Back to, P&L questions, from an ambulatory care services, is that cash flow positive or, okay, so that service, we're not making money on
We
it.
are not making any money off of it. No, so we do about 68% EMS calls, 65, 68, depends on the month. And we bill out about $2 million a year, not quite $2 million a year. I think, does that sound about right, Jason? It's close to 1 point something.
Net of the adjustments?
No, I'm talking not, that's where I'm going. So we bill out
The
about,
bills are in the neighborhood of $2 million.
we bill out about $2
That would be
million.
accurate.
And then the insurance company.
200,000.
And, well,
Well,
more than that.
more than that.
So for instance,
Yeah.
I'd bill
Point well
Medicare, Medicaid $3,000 for a call, and their ordinary and customary is 428. Have a nice day. So we are definitely now positive because that's where it makes up the difference.
So after negotiated rate, what are we pulling in? What are we netting?
It's about $1 million. It's about,
About $1 million
Just
a
about
year.
$1
So
million.
about 50% negotiated rate.
Yes, our collection rate's really pretty good. So there's a couple things you have to look at. Not just what we're getting, and we don't have a choice. It's not
Yeah, it's-
negotiation.
yeah, it's the-
The insurance company says this is
Yep.
what we're going to give you.
Yep.
Some insurance companies will say, oh, we're only going to pay this. If you want more, you have to talk to the fire department and they'll have them lower the bill. And as soon as we say no, call your insurance company back, the insurance company will then pay it. Then there's people that just don't pay their bill at all, and which is interesting because we do a lot of those. We just recently, 3 years ago, started sending them to collections. But we have a whole big policy of we send to collections. We don't send Northborough people to collections. We send out-of-town people to collections. The only Northborough people that are affected by that are people that have a super, super high deductible and choose. So if you choose to have a $50 deductible and Jason chooses to have a $9,000 deductible, you're paying the bill and he's not. So we have a whole policy that goes over that.
So Chief, I get transported. Take me to UMass. What's the process in terms of me getting an invoice? This
Okay.
comes from the department, from a third party? How does that work?
So what happens is the lead provider, whoever it is, will complete his PCR, his care report. That report's all electronic, it's uploaded, gets automatically exported to our third-party biller, which is a company called Comstar. The reason fire departments use third-party billers is because quite a few years ago, there was a issue of Medicare, Medicaid fraud. And it wasn't so much fraud, it was just error, because you got people that are fire chiefs or people that are paramedics trying to figure out medical billing. It's not easy to do. So we all use these third parties now. The third parties take somewhere between 5 and 10%, depending on the agreement you have with them, of what they collect. Not everything, of what they collect. So if they bill out $1 million and they only collect 500,000, they only collect on the 500,000. They don't collect on everything they bill. So they do the billing then. They'll bill you 3 times. They'll bill you, if we have the insurance company, we bill the insurance company. If you have no insurance for whatever reason, or for what's not being paid after that third bill, it comes to us and say, what do you want to do with it? And then that's when we put our billing policy, we pull it out, we look at it, These people get reported. Now, we used to report them to the credit bureau, can't do that anymore. It's against the law. Cannot report people for overdue medical bills to the credit bureau. Can't do it. But we can send them to collection. When I was up north again, I knew many towns that actually took them to court. They would take them to small claims court. Okay, so then you'll get the bill from a company called Comstar, but it's clear that it's us. Okay, then if you dispute that bill, there's a lot of things you can do. Or let's say if you are having a hardship, all you have to do is ask for a hardship reform from a form from Comstar. You fill it out, provide the information that's required. It comes to me. I look at it, check, it's good. We give you the accommodation. Sometimes that accommodation is a reduction. Sometimes that accommodation is a payment plan. Sometimes that accommodation is wiping it off.
Do you ever get a question from a resident in town that is transported by ambulance, gets a $3,000 bill and says, hey, I'm a resident here, my taxes are already paying the salaries of the people that are working, all the EMTs, I'm also paying for the ambulance, why am I getting a bill for using it?
It's a great question. And interestingly, here in Northborough, I don't. I think I've gotten maybe one call of that nature. I've gotten other calls like, well, this says you guys did this, but I don't remember that being done. Well, man, that's because you were unconscious and you may not remember it being done, but we have it, we have it tracked. And, or I look and no, you're right, that was a mistake. We made that error, we'll take care of it. But I don't normally get those here. But what I tell people when they do ask me that is I say, yeah, you pay for us to be ready to transport. And most of those people that get that $3,000 bill, your insurance company is paying for everything they're supposed to pay for. We do not balance bill Northborough residents for that reason. So if you get a bill for $3,000 Your insurance company pays us $2,000. The $1,000 is just written off because we don't balance bill you, because you do pay, right? We do balance bill people that live out of town. No offense, but you're going to get balance billed. You're a resident of Worcester, Westboro, Shrewsbury, wherever, you're going to get balance billed. So because of that, we don't get too many of those calls, because the majority of the people in town either have some type of insurance, and that insurance covers their cost.
So, sorry, just going a little bit further on that. So I know from like, I work at a hospital.
Oh, sorry.
We have programs that you can do where you look for like grants and things like that for things like uncovered co-pays, gaps in insurance, things of that nature. Do we have any subscriptions to any of those services where, you know, for that balance, you know, you can reach out to various grants, charities, whatever it may be, to try to collect from those organizations?
We have participated in a couple of those, especially during COVID, there were some of them, but we don't have contracts with any insurance companies. Okay, so we charge what we charge. I think those programs are available to hospitals much more than they are to EMS agencies, but we can look into it. If you have some that you know of, send them my way. I'll take a look at it. I'd be happy to.
Chief, how
Do we
frequent-
actually have like our bad debt and what we're writing off each year in terms of these, you know, ambulance rides?
Every month, there's a report that's put together and sent up, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Chief, how frequently do you look at your charge rate, your list schedule of what you
Once a
charge
year.
for? Once a year?
So what we do is we charge, let me see if I get this right, because I apologize, I didn't look at this before I came. We charge Medicare plus 250% is what our charge rate is. And we're lower than the majority of communities around us. So what we do is we look at the Medicare rate, we multiply that by 250%, and that's what we do. Every year, our billing agent sends us a statement, says, this is the changes in Medicare, Medicaid for this year. It's increased by 2%. It's increased by 4%, whatever it happens to be. We figure that out. I come into the select board. I present them with the data. This is why. This is the cost estimate, blah, blah. Do you approve it? They approve it, and we change our fees. If it's a 1% increase, we normally just say, okay, it's a 1% increase. We don't worry about that. It doesn't decrease because nothing in, is anything in healthcare ever decrease? No, it doesn't. It just constantly goes up. So every year we look at it. And now it's funny when we get that, one of the things are, and because they're in business, I understand that. Every year we get from our billing agent. Now, comparable companies that do this is what we successfully collect. And the bills are outrageous. Private companies can charge whatever they darn well want to charge. And I'm talking $4,000 bills, $5,000 bills. You want to be expensive? Get flown out. Get flown on a helicopter. 15?
No, it's closer
Closer to 20
to
now?
25, 30 now.
To fly somebody. We don't just fly someone because we think it's cool and a little bird comes in and we put them on the helicopter and fly them out. We gotta have a reason. Okay. So yeah, it's an expensive business. And one of the things we're finding is our costs continue to skyrocket. So our meds continue to go up. What used to be an inexpensive EpiPen that we could buy and have on board is $300 or $400 now, something outrageous. It's outrageous. So we stopped carrying EpiPens and we started carrying vials of epinephrine and needles and train our guys to do draw-ups. It's called check and inject. Okay? We have these needles called IO needles. Have you ever seen somebody get drilled for an IV? It's pretty cool. It's a bone drill, an interosseous. It's actually a drill with a needle, and the needle goes either in here or somewhere in your body. And it's when we can't get a vein and we have to get a line in, they drill you. Those stainless steel needles expire. And they don't actually expire, the packages expire. And then we have to buy new ones. So it's outrageous what it costs us in medical supplies. It truly is.
And do we have any like GPOs that we're a part of, like with our neighboring communities, where we can kind of try to bulk buy some of these things and secure better terms, or
We were doing
free-for-all?
quite a bit of that with COVID. The problem is we have different medical directors, right? So our medical director may not be the same as Patriot's medical director, who isn't the same as WEM's medical director. And we're under different parameters and different stuff we buy in different levels of med we're allowed to get. So some things we do reach out. We've done that with a lot of bulk buying we did with all the PPE we had to buy. And we went with Shrewsbury, Westboro, and Northborough and bought all kinds of PPE, masks and gloves and all that. But for our regular meds, we replace those on a regular basis. So like we go to the hospital, we replace the med right there. And then we get charged monthly for it. So I'd like the deputy to go ahead and do his section. I know he's got a PowerPoint.
Yeah, this has been,
I'm not going anywhere.
it's been very informative, Chief. Thank you.
For questions, you can throw it out, but I'm going to go ahead and,
Yeah, don't go.
Deputy?
I'm going to leave, okay? So.
Oh, you're leaving? No. All right. There we go. All right.
That's good. 'Cause I was thinking
Yeah. A little wealth of knowledge sitting next to me here. All right, so first thing on our capital information plan, or improvement plan, and this came up at town meeting, and it really struck me as an area that we were lacking in, is explaining to the public what we actually do. You know, everybody sees fire department, and it's a very poor branding. So in just in that top section, you know, we do fire suppression, obviously we do emergency medical services, the ambulance, but we also do rescue, which is technical rescue, or, you know, cats out of trees even, hazardous materials response, we do community risk reduction, prevention, investigation, and public education. Those aspects are forward-leaning jobs. We're not just a response agency. We are a proactive agency. We continue to reinvent ourselves, you know, no different than some of the companies, you know, I always equate it to like Digital and Data General. They'll never be desktop computers. We're going to stay big ones. They didn't reinvent themselves, and those companies disappeared. So we are always trying to reinvent ourselves to maximize the investment in us and the tax dollar, and obviously saving lives. You know, while while it may be unique to some people that we enjoy going to some of these exciting calls, that's not really our goal. Our goal is to try to mitigate them before they even start. You know, and that goes especially fire prevention and education is a big area that we do. We reach out to the schools, we reach out to the senior population, we go up and meet them. We do inspections with the senior populations where we'll go in, we'll change the batteries in their smoke detectors. We'll look at some of their trip hazards and educate them on that, some of the cooking fires that they have. And then with the youth, we're just trying to set an expectation for, as they grow up, that, you know, they're fire safe and they understand how that works. And we don't just do fire safety, we do CPR, we do stop the bleed, which is, you know, trauma-related stuff, so that anything people can use that we can do. And obviously that saves on a dollar loss as well, and not only safety. You know, the smaller the fire, the better the fire, the less loss there is, you know, damage-wise, but also getting back to business. And really, that's one of our goals whenever there is a emergency or disaster, is try to get the affected person or business back into normal operations as soon as possible. And we do a lot of stuff in, you know, for example, in our pre-planning and our plan reviews, when we have a map in every business. If you go up to Shops Way and you look inside the door, you'll see a map, and it's got all these little red dots on it with numbers. What that is it tells you where all the smoke detectors are in that business. When we get an alarm up there, you know, we go to a warehouse, we don't know anything. You've always got nope, it's not that one. It's not that one. And you're looking for that device. And that can take a long time. If you're in Wegmans, you know, we'll use them as an example again, that could be a significant amount of time. No one can be in the building for that time while we're doing that. Well, that's a loss of revenue in them. That's impacting people's time that are shopping there. So we go to the panel, it says it's device 4. We go to the map, there's device 4. We go to device 4. Yep, that's the one. No problems. We shred it back into business. So we do a lot of that stuff in our pre-aspect. The other thing that the fire department's responsible for is emergency management planning and response. So that's another aspect of the fire department. The chief is the emergency management director for the town. And that is that's an animal in itself. I mean, that's a full-time job for some communities, you know, preparing the town, for any kind of major impactful disaster. Doesn't even have to be a storm or, and I said my prayers to Jamaica and the devastation they're going through now, but, a storm like that, or even, a chemical truck that rolls over on Route 20, that's a major impact to the community. So we have a lot of plans on how to respond to that. So when you think of the fire department, don't just think of, fire and emergency response. We do a lot more. And which one is it? Oh, which button?
You can go to the bottom left, you see the little right arrow.
This guy?
Left click that.
All right. So for this, I was going to say that I'm going to, respect your time and keep it, very high level and focus on the priority things, and not go through the whole 10-year capital plan. I'll give an overview on it and focus more on the 27 asks that we're requesting. But, half my presentation's already been taken away with conversations and questions, so they'll probably go a little quicker than I expected. But this is just kind of give you an idea of the expectation of what I want to talk about is, an overview of the fleet. The chief gave a brief one. I'll go a little bit more deep dive. Really the drivers behind our plan, how we create it. The procurement process is extremely important to understand, especially post-COVID. What we try to do for tax impact offsets. We'll look into I want to touch on the FY28 real quick, just for purposes of your future planning. And then we'll go into the 27, and then obviously questions and answers on that aspect. Oh, God, that's tough. All right. So here's our apparatus fleet. So, as the chief kind of mentioned, we have 3 ambulances. One's a 2013, one's a 2019, and one's a 2024. We do have one on order for the 2013. And as the chief mentioned, we had a real significant impact on our ambulances last year, where we had 2 ambulances blow motors, and we had another ambulance that was running all the calls, and then that went down. We had 0 ambulances. So we were able to borrow an ambulance from the town of Maynard, which was very helpful. We brought one of ours, and using that, again, that contact in Foxborough, we said, hey, listen, we need to get an ambulance quick for a cheap amount of money. We can't wait. And, if we had one, can you point us in the right direction? And would you look at it as kind of our subject matter expert to say, that's a good one, that's not a good one. And he was willing to do that, and that was going to be a great resource. As the stars all aligned, when the chief reached out and said, we need an ambulance, the town of Westboro was trading in one of their ambulances pretty soon. And they were trading it in for $7,000. They were going to receive it, or somewhere around that. Somewhere around that. And Chief Purcell said, if you can pay that, I'll give it to you and not trade it in. So when Owen, who was in Foxborough, told us we were looking at probably for a decent ambulance that would last us till the new delivery, probably $100,000 if we got something that was going to last. And that was just going to be used. It was just a simple ambulance to make us pretty much get through where we need to be, but we hit a home run by getting that $7,000 ambulance. We put a little bit of money into it, maybe $10,000 into it, and it runs as our mechanical spare, but now we have our 2 primary, and we do run that ambulance, up and down as we need to. So is it the best piece of apparatus? No, but it's definitely meeting the operations that we need. We run 2 pumper engines, a 2016, and as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, a 2025. We took delivery of our new engine. It is not in service yet, but we took delivery of that. It's important. We have 2. So the ambulances, the engines are the only things that we have spares. You talk about the cities where they have multiple ladders for spares, multiple engines for spares. These are the only ones where we have multiple apparatus. That's because they're the primary apparatus that, we do most of our business with. The ambulances, we talked about the service we would provide, how many ambulance service we would provide, but also the income that we make off the ambulances. We don't want those down. So if we can rotate them in, we do so. Also, note on that 3rd ambulance, we'll use that ambulance for our detail standbys and such, and that doesn't take a response ambulance out of the rotation. So that maintains operations. But 2 pumpers, one run primary, one as a backup. That backup runs in its place when it's out of service, which obviously regular maintenance or damage or whatnot. But also will run if we have a fire and we have people come back, that apparatus will take as the second engine. We'll get into some of the other aspects of why we have those. We have one engine tanker. That is for the out-of-water district. The chief mentioned our District 3. When we have a fire up in that area or a call, we need more water on the vehicles because we don't have hydrants and it's going to take longer to get a water supply. So that's what that apparatus is for. With the rollout of electric vehicles a lot, and I don't know if you've seen, sometimes a regular gas engine will take maybe 500 gallons of water to put it out. These electric vehicles, there's reports of 30,000 gallons of water to put it out. And then you put it out and it reignites a week later. So, a unique challenge has been put into the fire service. So this apparatus helps on that. We'll take that to the highway because we know we're going to need more water. We won one rescue truck. That is, it's a 2004, and that we have a replacement order, thankfully, from the award of town meeting last year. We run one forestry truck at 2018, and I was looking at the chief's numbers on responses and how many brush fires we do, and last year was, a massive response statewide for brush fires, in Mount Pisgah. So we do have a lot of brush fires, and brush fires is even someone's backyard, got a little out of control. So that response figure for brush fires will kind of play a little bit into the apparatus that we're requesting this year. We have a multi-hazardous response vehicle. We call it a squad, but it's kind of can do everything okay, but nothing really well. And that's the vehicle one of the vehicles that we've identified to replace on our capital response. We have a logistics support truck. That's a pickup truck that we have. That's to kind of get around, without taking the big apparatus. It tows vehicles. It's kind of our surplus vehicle. We have two command vehicles, a chief's vehicle and myself's vehicle, a utility vehicle or ATV, UTV for our off-roads, a boat, and two cargo trailers. The multi-hazard vehicle is a 2015. The pickup is a 2022. The command vehicles are a 2014 and a 2022. The UTV is a 2008, and the boat is a 2021. All of these would have, and the chief kind of mentioned it, they all have unique purposes. We don't have any apparatus in-house that can do the job that the other one that they're designed to do. Each can do a little bit. Take, for example, ladders. Our engines carry a 16-foot ladder and a 24-foot ladder. Maybe the new one has a 28-foot ladder. We can ladder. But the ladder truck, the tower, carries a 35-foot ladder, a 45-foot ladder, two 24-foot ladders. So they can do, but they're all specialty in what they do. All right.
So just a question on the fleet.
Yeah.
So in it, almost tying into the data points that you provided earlier, a curiosity that I have is, of your current fleet, if we're looking at that and we're looking at the types of calls that you're getting, where the trajectory of those calls are, where the trends of those calls are going, and then, I guess, aligning that with, I know there's certain rules of deployment based on, when you get a call, you have to send one of these and one of those, and et cetera, et cetera. So all of those elements, are there any efficiencies that you could see balancing those three components? Where it would make sense to have maybe a mix-up of this current fleet? And maybe, one of these could be more useful than one of those based on those trends. And the reason why I ask is, of course, based on efficiency. And if, with those factors, you could send a speedboat instead of a tanker, So, because there's obviously costs associated with that. There's the people that have to man it, the vehicle itself, and the depreciation based on the usage. So, it seems like there's a lot of calls that are ones that are not ones that would necessitate sending, the whole battalion,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a lot of calls, so I don't know, has there been any thought of that? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it's, at multiple layers, and this goes back years on multiple departments, because that's not a unique question that we hear. And obviously, from a responsibility aspect, we have to look at efficiency and minimizing overhead costs. Obviously, medical calls is our major response, and there are some communities that'll send a fire engine, $900,000, $1 million fire engine, with the ambulance every time. And there's other departments that don't do that. We're one of the that don't do that. We send the squad. And the reason it's multi-hazard is when that's on the road, it can immediately respond to something else if need be. But it's not a bigger vehicle. It's much cheaper. It's less expensive to maintain, less operational costs. So we run that in lieu of. So that's a way of breaking down on that rather than sending. Some departments, you could go all the way down just to send the pickup truck, but now you got one person on the pickup truck, and if they're out, and, we don't have enough staffing to, we're in a city where every vehicle's staffed, if they're out on a call for a medical and there's a call for a fire, they either have to go to the call and hope for the best in a pickup truck, or respond back all the way to the station, get another piece of apparatus and respond. So there's a lot of moving parts on how that would work. As for consolidating the bigger fleet, I think what we have now is pretty consolidated to what we can be with the types, because we're in all hazards and what we need to do and what we need to carry. There was a system in place back in the days where you could put the rescue equipment on a pumper engine. But just with, the amount of water that you carry, so it's 1,000 gallons, the cabinet space, and all the specialty equipment that you now have to carry for a rescue scenario, we just can't do that anymore, because now it just becomes trying to put 10 gallons in a 5-gallon pail. It just becomes, irresponsible. It also will beat that vehicle up more, because that vehicle now will respond over and over and over, and when you do a 20-year replacement on some of those vehicles, you're expecting it to do a certain amount of calls, and not get beat up. And so if we take that engine to every single call, we run into that aspect. The next one would be, if we single it into one, we'll use the engine and rescue again. That engine goes mutual aid. Now we've lost everything. That vehicle goes out to a car accident on the highway. We have another call. Now we don't have it, so there's separations to it. So a lot of thought goes into how that could be. I will say that we're very conservative in how we spec out our vehicles. There's no frills, and we try to manage the price to keep it as low as possible, so that knowing that we need to have X amount of vehicles, so we need to make that money spread between those vehicles. Does that answer?
Yeah, it's more of an open question of just, provoking thought
Oh,
on,
totally.
Maybe it would be beneficial to have, another, XYZ.
Yeah, one of the things we did when we spec'd the new rescue, as the deputy said, is we did what's called a wet rescue. So it's got a small tank on it. And it's got it's got less hose on it. But it allows us to carry more rescue equipment on it. But it will allow us to deploy a single vehicle with an ambulance, as opposed to the rescue, an engine, and an ambulance to a motor vehicle accident. So we do try to do that when we look at how we design those vehicles. Yeah, that's a great idea. And that's why the squad runs like crazy.
Yeah.
Deputy, so your ambulance has a crew of 2,
Yes.
both paramedics certified?
We run a PB, so we can get into staffing and recruitment and
I don't
retention.
get too far afield, but-
Recruitment and retention in the fire service is in municipality government as a whole, but because, the award of the SAFER grant, which was, a blessing that we got, we knew we weren't going to be able to hire 8 quality paramedic firefighters. And it was either get okay people, which is, an animal in itself, or we changed our model to be paramedic basic, so PB service. So we hired some paramedics and we hired some basics. And not every call is a paramedic call. So you talk about efficiency, if we had all paramedics and they're doing basic calls, right? They're doing somebody that just has high blood pressure and they're just driving to the hospital, we're sending paramedics. Whereas now we can send basics and keep our paramedics back and expand them. So there is a cost savings to the town on that, because the paramedics get higher pay than the basics. We do offer our basics the opportunity to go to paramedic school if they want, because obviously that's a higher level service for the town, and I think that's what the community expects from a town in Northborough, is to have that high level. But an ambulance will always have a paramedic, whether it's one or two. So, on this one, so the drivers behind how we kind of figure out our capital plan. So the goals that we do is to maintain operational readiness and reliability. You know, our vehicles need to go at a moment's notice. You know, I'll get into this further, but it's not, you know, it's not similar to my vehicle at home, my wife's vehicle, your vehicle, where if it doesn't start, it's an inconvenience. You know, I might have to drive her to work or call an Uber. We don't have that option. You know, our vehicles have to be ready to go. We don't say, oh, well, we'll take the other one. You know, luckily with, you know, an ambulance, might be able to do it, but that impacts services. Meeting NFPA and ISO, the insurance rating standards. So ISO is the insurance rating for your fire home insurance. They do a calculation into the town, figure out a whole bunch of aspects, water, types of vehicles. So it gets into, you know, your type of vehicle, the amount that you have of them, quantity, the capabilities they are, and the age of the vehicles. And we want to keep into that to keep a high rating. We're at a level, we're at ISO rating 3. We are in the process. There was a good question from a citizen that asked, oh, tell me more about this ISO. So we have, to read the ISO report is to have your eyes roll back and try to figure out things, except for the chief and Mrs. Sakis, they're just data guys. Yeah, they would love
Data
it.
geeks can understand it. Other
They
people
would love
can't.
it, but for the majority, they probably, so we took it, and don't worry, the full report is going to be still there, but we broke down and broke it out so that, you know, most people could kind of grasp of what the information is and how it impacts. So that's one of the reasons in there.
I was going to jump in real
Yeah.
quick. We're an ISO 3 out of 10.
Oh, yes.
So 10 is the highest.
I know, one's
One,
high.
I'm sorry, 1 is the best,
Yeah.
10 is the worst. We're a 3. There's not that many 3s in the state or in the country, so there's about 3,000.
3,000 in the country.
So we're pretty proud of being a 3-3Y.
Yep. And that actually was before we hired the safer personnel, and there's some other aspects that have to do with dispatch and whatnot that play in the ISO, that some infrastructure that we got gigged on. So obviously we manage the taxpayer impact responsibility. You know, we want to spec out what is needed, not necessarily what we want. You know, it's a play with everybody wants the shiny red fire truck and such, and it's like, that's great, but, you know, we need to make sure we manage the cost and we can justify what we actually spec out. And then ensure continuity of service and monetization. So one of the things with service is every fire department prior to COVID tried to buy all the same apparatus. So if you had E1s, you tried to buy all E1s. If you had Fords, you tried to buy all Fords. COVID, that went out the window because of, you know, some things we'll talk about, but between costs and delivery times, it got more difficult. What we're doing with, you know, the 2 ambulances that we purchased are both Fords. Now, the next vehicle that we're trying to get that's that size, we're going to try to get a Ford again. What that does is you buy all the same parts, the mechanics know the same engines, it can go to the same vendor, so we can kind of streamline that, and the overhead's a little bit better. We can buy stuff in bulk. And then monetization, you know, things are always changing, you know, and we want to leverage that for efficiency in the service that we provide. So a good example of that is, it's called a Lucas machine, but it's an automatic chest compression machine, where they do, you know, CPR by a machine. And so by leveraging that, you know, a cardiac arrest is labor intensive, you know, and when you have 4 people, they're all doing stuff, and then have to take one person to do compressions takes one more person out. So you buy these machines, and that gets set to do your compressions, maximizes the rest of the people to do the other jobs. So there's a lot of things in the apparatus that's always changing. They're always trying to sell us stuff. Some is good, some not so good. The basis for it, service demands, trends, to your point, national standards. So we look at the trends, and that's one of the vehicles we reimagined it for this ask. Replacement cycles for aging apparatus. So like the chief said, we have a 10-year plan, and we try to rotate things out, you know, and they have to be rotated out before the end of their service life. Now, and this is an issue that's happening for every fire service in the country, and probably every municipality, police, DPW, is our capital plans were designed pre-COVID where, your average build time for a fire truck was 18 months. So, that was your average, like, when you.
Quicker sometimes.
Yeah, okay, that, on the high end, I should say 18 months. So you built your plan. I want to replace this truck on this year, knowing that, when it reaches its end of a service life, that new vehicle will be in, so we can rotate out, so we don't get into that either over-aging or, maintenance becomes more of an issue. Now, 18 months, you'd be lucky to get anything in 18 months. The average now is between 24 and 48 months. So when you do a capital plan, 5 years ago, to replace something that you thought you were gonna get in a year, and now you're not getting that 4 years, that's a significant impact and really kind of chews up our capital plan. So everybody's managing that, but we'll get into how that plays in on replacement cycles. Cost impacts over time, so obviously, that goes into maintenance. If we kept this vehicle another year, what would be the maintenance? Everybody has that vehicle where they're like, it's right there, should I get rid of it now or wait? And then the engine blows and you're like, man, I should have got rid of it because now I got to dump the money in it. So kind of you're balancing that. And then the global funding, sustainability, so that's, where we fit into the town-wide plan, the budget. The DPW, the police, recreation, they all have purchases and costs. So where do we fit into that responsibly? Because, we're all under the Northborough heading. We all work together. And, my job is not to try to outwin, the police chief and get stuff and he doesn't. We all have to kind of fill the plan in together.
Although we're better looking than the police, just in case anyone ever has.
I can guarantee his PowerPoint's probably prettier. So, and then our approach, systematic phase replacement, avoid, large one-term spikes. That kind of plays into like our structural firefighting gear. Rather than buying, $150,000 worth of gear every 5 years, we roll it into the budget and buy a couple every year. And then also, if you look at our plan, there's not really any big cost figure items back to back. We spread them out to the year. So, a costly vehicle, then we go with something a little bit cheaper. Costly vehicle, a little bit cheaper. Identifying needs, not wants. So, I mean, that's obviously a question that comes with anything municipalities do, because it is the tax dollars that people want to make sure that we're spending it responsibly, and we live this through, trying to, when we justified the fire station was that everything we buy is identified on our needs, not our wants. There's a lot of wants that we would want, but, it's not our money. We can't justify it. Our job is to buy something that will be a service and manage the service of the town, and that's what we do. Long-term financial and operational investment, because when you purchase any piece of equipment, it's an investment. It's not a purchase. It's an investment. It's an investment of the town. It's an investment of their dollars, but it's an investment of the service, and so we try to fall back to the goals of operational readiness and sustainability, so operational investment, that we want to get something good that's going to last. We don't want to get something that's really cheap that's going to be an issue down the line. And then multi-year planning to support the tax levy sustainability, and that's kind of what I alluded to about how we lay out high-cost items and lower-cost items. Feel free to hop in anything you need. Procurement process. So this is something, I alluded to it, that really needs to be understood for not only the board, but even anybody listening on how it does. When we build our capital plan and you see those numbers, that is not just for the vehicle. These vehicles are specialty vehicles and have a lot of extra equipment that come from multi-vendors. There's no fire apparatus company or radio company that sells everything as a package. So we get the vehicle, it's also going to include, some equipment, but radios, installation of radios, your lighting package, all these other aspects that go into the vehicle. We include that in the price. So when you see a vehicle that, I can go to the Ford dealer and buy that for $50,000. It's like, yep. And then our breakdown is, yes, it's $50,000. It's everything else that is the added in cost. And I'll get into some of the ideas we do in our next slide. And then it also includes installation setup. So there's a lot of aspects in that. Timeline, this, I just mentioned, 18 on the low end, if we're lucky, 48 months. And then we have to go through a process. The reason it takes so long, even for 18 months, is, again, these are not off-the-lot vehicles usually. Even the ones that are off the lot still customized. Even if it's a Ford chassis, you still have to customize the body that's on it. So you have to go through a design phase and specifications, what we need, you design it, you meet with the companies, the engineers, build it, drive down, and it's, the rescue that we just ordered was, 3 straight 8-hour days of meeting with them and going through laying the truck out, how it's gonna be. And then it goes into building and manufacturing, and then between specification and building, who knows? The engine that we just received,
They stopped building.
it sat idle, or they had other vehicles on the line. You'll hear, oh yeah, you're, 15th in the queue. When's that? Well, we don't know, but it's probably not this year.
But you're 50th in the queue.
So, and then we do inspection outfitting. So before we even take delivery of anything, we go to the manufacturer, we inspect it, make sure that it's what we ordered and it's correct. We identify things that need to be changed at the factory. And then we take delivery and training. So even when we take delivery at 48 months, it doesn't go in service in 48 months. We have to, our apparatus, we have to learn how to drive it, how to pump it, how to operate it. From insurance aspect, by Maya, we're required to get training on it. So all that, and then it finally goes in service.
Yeah, and the next thing he has is recent challenges. I don't know if you guys have been following along, and I mentioned earlier before the meeting about what's going on in Congress.
Yes. So I'll get,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
that's in my next one.
There's a lot of stuff that the senators and congressmen have caught on what's going on, and they're not very happy about it. And they're actually taking some action. There's been a lot of hearings on it.
Yeah,
I didn't think there was a Congress anymore.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other discussion we could have, right? I'm with you.
yes. So, for example, with the engine that we took delivery today, that was ordered in June of 2023. And we took delivery of it today, and it's not in service. It still needs to be outfitted. But recent challenges. So I talked about the COVID-19, the supply chain delays, the material costs. It's impacted everybody, healthcare, software, anything, you name it, it's impacted it. And then now we have to add on, tariffs and all those things that we have to take in that. Well, that related in a dramatic cost and increase in lead times and the importance of, making sure we stay with our capital plan because it's already kind of backed up as it is. But what had happened is there's a profit in purchasing and making and selling apparatus, right? And there's only so many companies in the industry that do it. They were all individual companies. And then seeing that, companies started getting bought up and consolidating under bigger corporation conglomerates, one of which is Rev Group and such. So what that does is obviously when you consolidate like that, they become a more supply and demand. They try to maximize their costs. Not only do that, they became traded companies. So now they have to answer to the stockholders. I was in a class today and it just ironically lined up with this meeting is Rev Group. In the last 5 years, Rev Group's stock, and I wish I bought it, has increased 625% in 5 years. Because they are just, and so they're not building them as fast. They're charging a lot of money. Apparatus, I think it's, pre-COVID, a fire engine, maybe $800,000, maybe 800, 700,000, 1.2 million now. And it's a nationwide fire service-wide issue. It's not just, the Northeast. Volunteer fire department, city fire department. What the answer is to it, we don't know. I think they're just taking advantage that they know it's tax dollars, so, people will just spend it. Obviously, that's not true, and it puts us and you in a real bind because we need the apparatus, but we have to try to justify this cost. And then, as the chief mentioned, it's such an issue between the Fire Chiefs Association International, the International Firefighter Association, so the national unions have bounded together and gone to Congress and said this is not right.
When you can get the Chiefs Association and the unions to go together and fight for the same thing, there's something going on.
So, you know, if you want some good entertainment, if you watch parts of those hearings where they really kind of question them and really, you know, get into them and try to get them answer the questions, and they don't really have any. They know that they're a for-profit industry now. So what can be done? They're looking to see if there's antitrust or monopolies, and that's really all that can be done, unless, you know, out of their own hearts, they decide, well, we should probably do what's right, rather than what it goes in our pocket. And, you know, we'll see how that really goes. With that, though, I will say the rescue that we bought, knowing this issue, there are a few companies out there that are still mom and pop shops. So the rescue that we bought was from them. Was just about the same price, but rather than a 48 delivery, they had a 24 delivery, because they capped the amount of apparatus they purchase, or they sell per year. Because they're a mom and pop shop, they're customer service based, not dollar based. And even to the point that just recently, when we did our pre-build, there was an air conditioner that had to go on the top. And they're like, oh, we forgot because the roof's black, the air conditioner's white, that's an upcharge, whatnot. It was our fault, we'll eat the cost. Corporations that are identifying for a stockholder do that. So we are, you know, there's a way that we've kind of looked and pivoted to try to get that.
So when we have a need, we're reaching out to the rev groups of the world, but also some of the smaller regional builders as well. I mean, I guess, what's that?
Yeah, so-
What's that bid process?
So in
You have to follow, yeah.
Yeah,
30,
so,
yeah.
so Massachusetts, 30B is the procurement. And you can either go out and bid, or the state has vendors that are already approved where you can buy directly from them, and you don't have to.
Or there's other places like HGA, you know,
Yeah,
Galveston.
yes.
There's other organizations that have already done approved bidding, and we get that company approved to purchase through, and we can use their bid process.
I would just add that was the point that I wanted to make, was that it's not that it's just a state contract. The state has done the work on the procurement and done the bidding for us. It's called a cooperative procurement. So we can participate in cooperative procurements. The state laws become more forgiving on using broader ones, like, as the chief mentioned, the Houston Galveston bid that I think he used.
Galveston Area Compact, HGA.
Right.
I didn't think of what it was.
And, you know, a lot of the vehicles that we purchase, you know, across the board between DPW and public safety, being police and fire, police a lot come from the Plymouth County Cooperative Procurement, and I'm gonna.
We belong to that as well.
Yeah, I think you folks have used it as well. And then the Greater Boston Police Council is another popular one that gets used in terms of cooperative procurements.
So is the state negotiating purchase prices for, you know, valuations for
All kinds of
this
stuff.
category of
Right,
ladder,
the-
this type of engine, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, there's a limitation. I think there's some things that are in the bid and then things that are on top of the bid. But the thought is that, you know, when you go with a state contract, it's a, you know, the
Economies of scale.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, you take out all those other, you know, the hoops you have to go through that, you know, time is money, right? So,
I've drawn up my own bids
yeah.
for fire trucks. They're hundreds of pages long. It's challenging.
Well, and when you get into bids too, right, if you don't write it, they'll figure something else to put in there and then underbid another guy and you don't get
And they'll
really
take
what you're
they'll
looking
take an
for.
exception.
Yeah, so this way we can get, so it's a very good system. So offsets, what do we do to try to offset these very expensive vehicles? So we repurpose equipment where feasible, based on condition, certification, can it still be used? So buy a new ambulance, can certain things be moved over from the old ambulance to the new ambulance? Same for fire truck and whatnot. So whatever we can do, some things we can't. And those things we add into the capital line, or we use it on our capital budget throughout the year, operational budget. We also do a lot of in-house mounting of equipment and such for the apparatus that we got. If you went over and looked at it right now, you open a cabinet, there's nothing in there. Our guys on duty are gonna go and screw in all the holders and put all the equipment in. So obviously that is a lot of money that we can take off the price because we're not having a vendor do it. So that helps quite a bit. Maintain balance, customization versus cost. So like I said, these are specialty vehicles, and you can get very custom, and you can build it from the ground up. Does the town of Northborough, with our response area and what we have to deal with, need a fully custom vehicle? No. The more custom, the more cost it is, more expensive. So, you know, for us, they do make, you know, kind of like a spec truck, you know, that's kind of, here's our general truck, and then we tweak things that we need in it. So there's really, I don't think there's anything in our fleet that is really a custom. So like an example of a custom would be a community that has an old firehouse with short doors. They need to buy a ladder truck. Well, they have to get a ladder truck that's short. So that's a custom build because it has to be shorter to get
Which I
in.
purchased before for other departments, and they're very expensive.
So we manage that, you know, it's like, you know, it'd be nice to have that, but, and now some of the companies are starting to build more spec trucks to help out with that. Then the cost staffing model, which the chief had mentioned, that, you know, we try to get the right apparatus out to the right call so that, you know, the investment is being used the way that it's supposed to be. Maximum return. So here's another thing in the fire service that you'll learn. So trade-ins versus direct sales. So until recently, trade-ins was really our only option. We could direct sale an option, but we as the town would have to take on all the liability. So, you know, if there was something wrong with the vehicle and all that, you know, we would take on that liability. A lot of work, you know, and it just wasn't a cost-benefit analysis because there's always something wrong with these vehicles. They're 20 years old, they're
reason we're selling them,
they're
you know.
beat up. So manufacturers or dealers knew this. So, hey, we'll give you $10,000 for that fire truck, knowing that they're going to turn it over and make whatever money profit, and we get a whopping $10,000. So that was kind of a historical change. Because of what's going on, some companies are now seeing a value in being a market for that, where they will do all the legwork for you and take on doing all the legal aspects of liability and whatnot, and facilitate you either direct sale under the procurement laws to another department. We can't sell to, we can't outright sell to the public, but we can sell, correct me if I'm wrong, or we can auction out. So there's this company, Garage, a couple of fire departments around here have looked at it. Captain McManus ran with it, got the information, set it all up. And so an example of Engine One, the one that we just bought, $10,000 was what the company was going to give us. We sold it for $85,000.
We called them, we said, do a change order. What's a change order? Get rid of the trade. Why? Because we took care of it ourselves.
We took your profit. So, great opportunity. The only trade-off that we have, you know, and there's a lot more work on our end, but, you know, that's what we're supposed to do, right? You know, it doesn't take us away, it doesn't take Captain McManus and us away from, you know, our job that much, but it's worth doing the extra work for the trade-off to the town. But because the money comes in as a proceed or, you know, revenue, it goes into the general fund. And the $10,000 that we would have gotten in the trade now goes back into purchase of the truck. So, example, if Engine One, you know, it was a $900,000 truck, but with the trade, it was $890. But when we got the $85,000, that went into the general fund. We lose that $10,000, the truck is $900,000. So there's a little trade-off on that, but, you know, in the overall town budget, the money goes in.
It's the best thing for the town is
Yeah,
what it is.
so that's with that. All right. And the chief already went into the emergency medical services trade-off and how it does. But, you know, it also purchases, so any vehicle that's related to EMS and rescue. So that's a slide that we can, thanks, chief. I want to just out of, you know, respect and planning, talk about our fiscal year 28 capital item that'll be coming up. We are due to replace the tower ladder truck, which you can see there. That's a Bronto Skylift. I can guarantee you right now that there will not be another Bronto Skylift.
Bronto Skylift.
That is a very, very unique apparatus. It was purchased and spec'd long before either one of us got here. And for the actual operation of the actual aerial part of it, it's a German-made company. There's only 3 people in the country that are allowed to work on that.
It's a nightmare
So
to get service.
we will not be buying one of those. So what it's both an aerial and a pumping, so it's called a quint, which means it can run as a pumper, so it can pump water. And it can also, obviously carries ladders, and it carries a bunch of other specialty equipment for a mission that would be for a ladder company, which is venting, overhaul, power venting, fans, rescue, things along those lines. So with that,
Is that a 114?
It's 114.
that's
So
114
that's a
feet.
direct replacement?
Well, no.
That's our current truck.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's. yeah,
it will not be.
What you're
So-
looking at.
So going back, so looking at specking, and obviously we haven't got into it too deeply, but we've had informal conversations and looked at some apparatus, because firefighters love to look at apparatus. That, again, we don't need something custom like that. So, an off-the-shelf spec truck with some tweaking, so probably a 100-foot platform straight ladder. Yeah.
Makes much more sense.
Cheaper, a lot cheaper, 75, 100 foot. What's the tallest building in Northborough? Is it West Main
Yeah,
or?
well, no, it would be, but again, you can't just look at height. That's one.
Yeah.
People always say, well, how many stories is it? You gotta look at distance. So we can't be against the building and go
Sure,
up 5
sure,
stories,
sure,
right?
sure,
So
sure.
our biggest concern right now would be dealing with anything at 238 West Main Street, okay? Whitney Place.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So mainly because of the volume of people who are pulling, right. But we can't get right into the building, so you need height and reach. So that's why you need a 100-foot aerial, so you can get where you need to get and still have safety, that you can. get
Sure.
The thing with this truck, if you need this truck, nothing else will do. Because this has the articulating boom, and you can actually reach down over top of a parapet. It's awesome. How many parapets do I have to deal with in Northborough? Just curious, do you know?
Exactly.
Okay, so that truck's done more work in the city of Marlboro, specialized work, than it has done here. I would never buy that truck. I'm not the person that bought it, had good reason for why they bought it. I'm not putting them down. They had good reason for why they bought it. I can't see spending that kind of money on, that truck now would be significantly higher than what the deputy's gonna tell you about next.
That truck was $1.2 million when we bought it.
When
That
we
was
bought
$1.2
it
million
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
So in our capital, and the reason I bring it up is because it's a big ticket item for planning for future cycles next year is about 2.5 to just get your standard run-of-the-mill quint with a aerial with a bucket on it. So, and then we've talked to vendors, and we've talked to that company that we bought the rescue from, and what they have, and we can save money, but it's still in that 2.5 to, buy something that they're kind of already building, and then we just, tweak it a lot. So
And that's a 100-foot quint?
that'd be 100 foot, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people say, 75 foot, and so Marlboro's a great example. Years ago, they tried to save money by buying a 85-foot rear-mounted tower. And they actually came to a fire in Northborough that I was in another community, and I came, and they pulled into the driveway and couldn't reach. And then they found out half the places they went in Marlborough couldn't reach. It was just that short. So just because.
Turn around and back it.
So
into
because they
the-
saved that little bit, and they actually upped that, and the city replaced it, because it didn't make sense. The other thing you gotta understand on distance is, the further you go out, it's, a multiple section ladder, so usually about 5 sections. And when it's all together, it's extremely strong. As it continues to go out further and further, it gets weaker and weaker. Still strong enough to hold, but becomes a little bit more.
The first time you climb a ladder, if you guys ever get the chance to climb a fully extended 100-foot aerial ladder, and you get up to 80, 90, 100 feet, the ladder does this. It bounces as you're going up, and you're like, yeah, okay. First time you do it, you go,
Yeah.
Never.
And it's not even, and it's a safety factor, but also that on a vehicle is not good for it. The wear and tear and the beat up on it. So the 100-foot,
get us where we need to get.
gets us to that 75 feet with more structure.
So based on the existing properties and I think the zoning for the town is nothing over, 45 feet?
I'm not sure.
I think that's what it is. So
I'm not
based on the existing properties, what made that determination of 100 versus 75? I mean, is that
The ability to get, because how far back we have to sit, we can't sit next to the building and how high we have to.
Yeah, no, I get
So-
that.
No, that's what
I-
we
no,
need determination.
I get that, but I mean, has that been, is there a specific property where that's been kind of measured out? Where, is it Whitney, or is there some?
38 Whitney Street is, in order for us to reach it, we would not reach the top of that.
So based on wherever you have to be around the
How far out
circumference
we
of
have to
that
be.
property?
Because what happens is, if you look at the building, so rough estimate, 10 to 15 feet per story, okay, as you go up. And then we're out at least, the whole front yard, whatever that has to be, then the handicap parking, so we're out that far. And we have to make up that distance into the building and then the distance up.
What about Avalon?
So Avalon is another difficult reach for us. If you get around, so I had a fire on Avalon, we had a fire on the top floor and it was on the deck. It luckily mostly got contained by a sprinkler head. The tower had to come up from the lower section because we couldn't get it up to the upper section because we had other apparatus up there. And that's a good 5-story reach, plus it's further away. So for Avalon, you need it. And again, even some of these older homes in town, we can't get, so if I get a truck into a driveway and I have a chimney fire, I need that aerial to get to that chimney. And I can't, the driveway ends back here and the chimney's all the way at the other end of the house. So we need that reach to get it. So it's height and reach.
And one thing that we've found that makes, an aerial platform even more important for a residential structure is everybody's got solar panels on their roof now. We can't walk on these roofs anymore. We need some kind of platform to be able to get over that roof, to get to that chimney, to be able to vent. There are laws, so basically if you look at solar panels on a house, by code, there has to be 3 feet on either side of the ridge. And that's for firefighters to be able to cut the holes open. But we need to be able to get to that area. So by doing this, the apparatus, so we need to be able to reach. And, the fire's never going to be on the side of the house that's right next to the driveway. It's going to be on the other side of the house. It's always that way. It's going to be that way. So there's reasons behind it. But I just wanted to, because it's, a $2.5 million investment, I felt it was appropriate to at least put it on the docket for you guys for understanding, but.
Just 2 more quick things on that. So one, as a town, I think we should keep in mind that we can't change any coding about making bigger buildings because that would create an issue with this and it's an expensive investment. So I think we'd want to stay aware of that. And 2, you guys mentioned that this current iteration of the ladder truck that we have, only like 3 people in the country or something can work on it. So in terms of service going forward, like how much do you think we'd actually save in that regard by going to a more standardized truck?
It's not just cost, it's availability is really the big thing. So I've had to have that truck wait for service until the guy can get from wherever he is, he's overseas doing training, back to Greenwood and Attleboro to work on the truck. So that's really the big thing is the downtime. It would save a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
The thing that I'm still looking to get a little more convinced on is how many properties are actually, if we had a 75-foot, because I think it's a big price difference, right? It's like, from what limited research,
I have to look.
I don't know offhand.
it looks like it was like maybe like a 40%.
Ooh, no.
No?
I'd be surprised by that, but
So-
I'm sure there's some savings involved.
Yeah.
But you also have to look at the manufacturer or the type of
Yeah.
ladder, is it a steel ladder,
So-
aluminum ladder?
So I guess the curiosity is one, understanding what the cost difference is, right? And then comparing that with how many situations there are where it would necessitate a 100-foot versus a 75-foot. Because if there's only 1 or 2 buildings in town, and, and those buildings are,
Unfortunately, we can't look at it that way. Okay, so you have 238 West Main Street, all elderly housing. Those people are not coming down the stairs on their own. We have to pull them out.
Sure.
You have the proposed, what the hell's the name of it? The one up on, the elderly house, the elderly housing that's up off Southwest on the left-hand side that they're proposed, but they haven't built it.
Oh, where Kimball Sand is?
Falcon something or
Oh,
other.
Falcon
Falcon,
something.
yeah, yes.
On
that
the
one.
left-hand
Yeah,
side there.
yeah.
That's also got very limited access, and it's way back. We have to sit, the way that's designed, the tower would be way back, and your extension would be difficult. There's been even houses in town that we've had difficulty getting to by stretching out with that truck.
But Chief, you got a bunch of big box places in town. You got Amazon, FedEx, Dewey Pile, you got
All of those,
Wegmans,
yeah.
and you got BJ's, big honking facilities.
Yep.
You gotta burn through the roof, you gotta get out there.
So, and, you know, the caveat is, in our business, we have to do the job, right? So if the ladder doesn't reach, if the bucket doesn't reach, you know, we can't just, oh, it didn't reach. You know, now we have to use ground ladders, right? Ground ladders are a lot more manpower intensive. You know, whereas with the bucket, you can put one person in that bucket, they can run the whole operation if they have to. We advocate across, you know, against that.
Yeah.
It should be two people, one on the turntable in case of emergency, but if we had to. Whereas now, if you have to take a 45-foot fire department rated ladder, so it's not, you know, your Home Depot aluminum light ladder that you do, you know, your home powering, it's heavy, it's a 4-person ladder. So we run 7 a shift, now you just took 4 people that you have to do that. So, you know, it's a balance off of, you know, your cost benefit, risk benefit, to look at. All right, so now we're gonna get into our 2 apparatus that we're looking to replace for investment. So, so the first one is the multi-hazard, response vehicle, hereforth referred to as the squad. And this is kind of the chief, when he looked out those 100, 200, groups, and I went through, and all except for maybe one out of the 8, the squad doesn't do. So the squad goes to just about every type of call: fire suppression, emergency medical services, rescue, hazmat, service, JAWS, everything. So this is our current squad. Again, a piece of apparatus that was designed and purchased prior to the chief and I, and as with the Toronto, this is not a vehicle that I probably would have spec'd out. This, at the time, having been in the area, was kind of the thing at the day, and every department that I know that purchased something similar, it sits in their bays, and half of them don't even use it. It was designed as a brush truck, fire truck, quick attack truck, do everything truck, rescue truck, and you just can't put everything in it. And so now, again, like I said, it can do a lot of things, but nothing well. So we actually use it quite a bit compared to other communities, because we use it as that fly truck. So we talked about not sending a $1 million engine, we send this vehicle. So it gets a lot of wear and tear. It is a Dodge Ram, because that's what was purchased at the time. The replacement probably will be a Ford to align with it. It is the busiest apparatus in the fleet. 5-year turn is 46% of the calls that it goes to, and it's everything. You name it, it goes to it. The reason that we did, let me just get this piece of paper so we got it right. The reason that we run this model is by design. We run it by design. You know, it's a cost savings, a fuel savings, a, safety savings. Fire truck is much bigger, much heavier, running all around town, a lot more dangerous. You put lights and sirens on and everybody's adrenaline goes up. You never know what the car in front of you is going to do. So by design, we run this. But as a caveat to that, while that saves us money not running that apparatus, we end up doing more wear and tear on this vehicle than we would normally. So it has been beat up quite a bit. Here it is. So, again, it's proven to be, cost savings, but again, the wear and tear. So the next one on it is hours to miles. So this is a concept that really needs to be understood, that's kind of unique for anything that does work as a truck. So if you look down the bottom, the actual odometer on the vehicle is 57,489, and the actual hours on it are about 5,000, right? And that, most people, 57,000 miles, that's not that bad. Truck's got a lot of life in it, it's diesel, it'd be good. But idle time and idle working time, because idle time on a vehicle is mileage, because it's a wear and tear on the motor, the transmission, all the components. Also, when, the pump apparatus in the back and such, so when those are working, they're working off the truck's power. So idle is not necessarily idle, it's usually high idle or extreme high idle. So they get beat up quite a bit by even just sitting at a call, and sometimes these can be on a call, how long was it at Pisgah?
3 days.
3 days running straight, so it gets worn. It's not, a door-to-door kind of vehicle. So it's important to do that. So, the industry and the fire service accepted standard is about 1 hour equals 40 miles. And you,
Some places do one is 50 miles, some do one is 33 miles. And again, it depends on your industry. The fire service industry, you're figuring that's our average speed around town, 30 to, 35 to 45 to 50 miles, so 40 miles an hour is what's used to determine the total mileage.
so if you take that and you were to put it miles that you could kind of understand the wear and tear, if you used miles, would be about 205,000 miles on it. Definitely has got its wear and tear. It is starting to show its age. We were very lucky with this truck for a long time that it didn't have much mechanical problems, and anything it has was simple, but it's kind of made that turn now. And this vehicle is right now, under a repair that, luckily it wasn't bigger than it was. So that to understand how the beat is, it's got some frame and body rust. I'll get into some of that. Radios. And I'll talk about the price of radios, and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's the price of the truck. But radios, they're not compliant with interoperability and no longer serviceable. Communications is the number one thing in our industry, and it's always the number one failure of our industry. We're surrounded by people that run VHF frequency, UHF frequency, 700 frequency, 800 frequency, digital, analog, encrypted, not encrypted. So we need to be able to talk to each other. So radios, we don't purchase all those radios. You can get multi-band radios to talk.
We used to.
Which we do.
We used to have like 5 radios in the front of a truck. Which one is that? I need to talk on.
And there's also, talking about, the state and the state requirements is a thing called COMERS. It's the statewide communication system that they're building. Every radio that is in a municipality for a fire service or police department is required to have the state radio frequencies in it. And I believe it's probably about 2,000 channels. So, we can't just buy a 4-channel radio. We have to, by law and regulation, we have to have those 2,000 channels. I don't know if I could find any of them, but they have to be there. So right now, the radios we have, they can't be reprogrammed, they can't be updated.
And just to follow up on that, it's not because they're too old, it's because that's what radio manufacturers do. They, like a lot of other companies, the expected life of this radio is here, we don't support it anymore. So you can't buy the code plugs to update it, you can't buy the software to update it, you can't buy that's where we run into it.
And the radio industry is an industry that has had significant cost increases. It's not unheard of for them to increase by 12%. Unsecured storage in the passenger compartment, we'll see some pictures, but obviously that's a danger aspect. Obviously, it was built to do certain things, it's evolved over time, so it had to be modified a little bit. So we have some equipment that's in the passenger compartment that's not secured like it should be. Got an accident or whatnot, that apparatus, that item could dislodge. There's no room in the cabinets for it. Storage of firefighter protective gear in the passenger compartment, so contaminants. I mean, it's no surprise to anybody about the cancer issues in the fire service, and you talk about the structural gear and it off gases. And this item shouldn't be in the cabin. When anybody uses this, we have to take our gear with us, and even if that gear is clean, it's off gassing chemicals, and that's in the passenger compartment. So we're trying to avoid that as well. And then weight, I kind of alluded to that. It's heavy on the chassis that it's on. What we propose is lighter. But it's still lighter than the fire apparatus.
We will put as much stuff on a truck as it'll hold, because that's what we do. Because we always find something else that we need. Oh, we need to put this on that truck.
So I tried not to get a ton of slides in, so.
Just to give you an idea what
Just
it
some
looks like.
aspects, bolts are gone, rust, you got some rust on the body itself. The front bumper is probably about to rot off. And it's, it's not at the station currently, but it will be back shortly, and you're more than welcome to come get a deep dive into it. Motor compartment oxidized out. That's the pump that it's got. It's more than we really need. But it does have to be serviced. That's another thing about this
Has to be
pump. It
serviced
has to be
annually.
serviced annually because it's a fire rated pump. Motor and then inside our cabinets. So it served us well, and it's been a great investment, but it's kind of maxed out at this point. Here's the back seat. So we'd end up removing the back seat to get more stuff into it because we didn't have enough space in the cabinets. So you have your air packs, they have medical equipment. And the way that these are strapped in, that's the old style. Now they have clamps that go over the top that hold them because they found that these straps aren't the best.
And you're breaking loose and hurting people.
And that's where they have to put their gear. When they come in, they put their gear in the back of the truck like this, so they're in this compartment. And, it's not uncommon for this to go to a wires down call in cold weather, and they're sitting with the windows up and the heat going, and all that gear's in there, and they're absorbing all of that, so we're trying to
There's
get
an
away from
example of
that.
the multiple radios.
Yeah.
There's 3 in that stack,
And
in
then,
that center stack.
Yeah, so this one's got 3 plus 2 portable radios. As you can see, it gets really busy in there. So this is our proposed replacement. So what we did leading up to this was, and I read a great book by Simon Sinek, I believe it's his book, is Always Start with Why. And talks about all the companies of why do you exist, why do you do things, always ask why. Why do we have this truck? What do we want it to do? What is its mission? Because we all agreed when we talked to all the firefighters, we all agreed we need to replace this. Do we want to replace it with this? And just about everybody except for maybe one
There's a couple.
said no, that we don't need this. We need something else. So we tried to solicit some information on what we want the vehicle to do. What does it do now? What does it need to do? And the key components was we want to use it for, wear and tear rather than the fire apparatus, the engines. So still running it with medical calls. We still want to be able to keep some equipment on it to be able to do certain things if we came across items on the way back from a call, but not primarily a pump. But we also wanted to say, well, how can we maximize it to make it more useful? So it evolved into something that is similar to this. This is a very generic picture of what it kind of was look like, but 4-core cab with a body on it, such as that, 4-wheel drive. We'll get in more to that. And then here's another picture. You've seen these, kind of like a DPW truck and whatnot. What we decided, so we have a pickup bed here, basically. So rather than do that enclosed pump with a big water tank that basically took up most of that squad space, because we want space is what we want. And looking at the numbers where brush fires are so high, we have one brush fire truck. We figured we get what's called a skid unit, right? It's a self-contained pump with a self-contained motor, generator motor, and that can be removed. And with no water in it, they're not that heavy. And then we have our partners at the DPW that have their fancy forklifts that we can use them to help us get it in and out. But what that allows us to do is maximize the use of that vehicle, that we can remove it. Now we have 2 brush fire trucks because we have so many brush fires. And with the brush fires across the state, we do what's called a fire mobilization, where all the fire departments from different areas will go out to areas. So we were up in Salem and
Yeah, we're all over the state this
Winchester,
year.
and, there's plans to backfill us if we have a brush fire, but this will help us be self-sufficient. But also the way it's designed, if they came across a car fire, they could probably start putting it out. They wouldn't put it out, but they could start. If they came across a house fire, they could probably at least get a little bit of water on it to maybe control it from getting bigger. Fires grow double in size every 30 seconds to 60 seconds. So,
Crazy.
so if you can just hit it a little bit and knock it down, not put it out, that's a win. So this, again, an example of how it can be. If, just as a note, if we went with this company there in Vermont, obviously something like this, shipping costs, it says unit shipped fully assembled. So shipping that is not cheap. However, they're not that far away. And so another department that I was with, we saved a boatload of money by just driving up there and picking it up. Oops. So here's kind of another example of what it would look like with the skid unit in it. The compartment space, the skid unit in it, just to kind of give you an idea. Again, it won't look like this, but it gives you kind of an idea. So kind of the highlights of it. So we figured we'd go with a 3500 series type truck. Our ambulances are 550, and that's because of the weight that's on them, the box. This doesn't need to be a 550, but by staying in the Super Duty type series, it aligns with the same motors that they have, so for our maintenance. Crew cab, and it wouldn't have anything stored in the crew cab, so that maximizes, we can move people. Moving people is always an issue with us. The only thing we have that has multiple seating is the fire trucks. So this does lets us move people around. Four-wheel drive, obviously a must because of the way that we respond. The utility body and the skid unit. So what you determine that it still maintains the current capabilities that we want to maintain out of the squad, which is that we can kind of hit things if we have to that we come across, but also maximize it and expand our wildlife response capabilities.
Wildland.
Wildland.
I'm not going over the
Wildfire,
wildlife.
yeah, wildland. So expand the capabilities. So, again, you talked about how can we put more things in one. We took one and said, how can we make more things out of it? So what I mean by that is that skid unit can come out. Our pickup truck has a cap over and it has a drawer out. That's for certain reasons we have. Now, we remove that skid unit. We have a full pickup bed. We can go to a call and put dirty stuff in it. We can go to the lumber yard and pick stuff up on our own rather than have it delivered. It just gives us more capabilities. The personnel transport I talked about. It maintains our towing capabilities for the department. We have trailers that we have to tow. So we maintain that towing capability at the Super Duty level for weight. It's also safer than using the squad because as you saw from that picture, it's a big box, very hard to see around. Now it makes it a little easier to tow. And the thing is with firefighters, we're well skilled in driving, but we don't drive these every day. So, anything that we can do to kind of make it easier and safer for them to operate it, the better. It still maintains non-emergency administrative uses. So, we use this. I talked about going out to the schools and doing stuff. Sometimes we take that, wires down some of those calls that don't require a bigger apparatus. This will go to and still be able to maintain that. There are some ideas, so looking forward, we talked about mechanic stuff, and the mechanic made, he said, oh, if we do that, we can throw some tools on that, and if something breaks down on scene, I can take this and go repair it on scene. So that, we kind of looked at that. Bulk transport, we talked about that. Decon, so again, the fire service, we try to stay away from the bad stuff as much as possible. We don't want to put bad stuff into a clean area. So a lot of times, hose, gear, rather than putting it back in the fire truck, you just throw it in the back of this and drive it back. You wash it out after, no harm, no foul. And there's been talk, and this is a very high level, but thinking of future. So the investment is not for what we need today. This truck is probably 10 years, maybe 15, we should design it for ideas that we have, whether they come to fruition or not. And, with the limitation of paramedics in the fire industry now, it's harder and harder to find them. Back when paramedicine first started off in Massachusetts, they had paramedic intercept vehicles, right? It was an SUV run out of the hospitals, and with paramedics, the towns ran basic EMTs, and they called the paramedics, and they interfaced with them. Now everybody has paramedics, but now it's harder to find paramedics, and some of our bordering communities don't have paramedics. Like the chief mentioned, we'll go to other communities to provide paramedic service, and we'll charge money for that. Right now, we do that, we have to take an ambulance. So an idea is the future look at that of maybe making this a dual response of an ALS interface vehicle in the future where we can put EMS equipment on it, license it as a Class 5 ambulance, and go to calls. It gives us that benefit also that if both our ambulances are out of service or both our ambulances are out of town, we can still provide ALS care. They're basically paramedicine is an emergency department room in the field now. So there's no more rushing to transport. So if we can get the skills there and the equipment there, we can wait on an ambulance, come from another community to transport. So some ideas with that, and that came from our EMS committee. You know, a lot of people in the department, they're forward-thinking, you know, and the frustrating thing in the fire service in any municipality is you have all these ideas and go, type A personalities, problem solvers, let's do it, but everything works very slow. So by understanding, they're like, well, 15 years, we'll have something else. It's like, no, you won't. Simplification of the radios. So right now, the chief said we had 3, we're gonna replace it with 1. 1 multi-band radio. More expensive than 1 single radio, but less expensive than 3 individual radios.
You know, it's a smaller vehicle, it's a lighter vehicle, it's a quicker response. I think one of the things we really should focus on, Deb, is the cost breakdown and what we did with that.
Yep. So, yeah, here's the biggest one. So when we reimagined this vehicle was in the CIP for $450,000 last year, which that's what it would cost, looking at vendors and looking at other departments, to replace what we had, about $400,000. We have now figured that this vehicle would be about $212,000. So that's all that we're asking for the investment on that. And how that breaks down, like I said, the vehicle itself is $107,000, but that's just the vehicle. But the utility body is another $35,000, the equipment's $30,000, the skid unit's $25,000, and 1 radio, $15,000.
It's nuts.
So, so that's kind of the cost breakdown. That's what that number includes, that 212. And then offsets for taxes. So this vehicle, like the chief mentioned, runs EMS calls. So it is eligible to be able to be funded portionally out of the EMS revolving account if the town chooses to fund it that way. The trade, again, we were looking at probably maybe 10,000, probably less. When we looked at garage and estimated it, you know, they said we might be able to get somewhere around 60,000 for
Yeah,
it.
they have an estimator tool, you can go online, we can put all the information in, it kind of gives you a ballpark.
It could be much lower, it could be higher, but, you know, about 60,000 it was what it spit out for that direct sale and impact. So any questions on the squad? The new reimagined squad? Yes?
I have a couple of questions on it. So, first thing, so the skid, it looked like there was a capacity of somewhere around 160 to 200 gallons of water.
200 gallons.
200.
So that calculates out to about, 1,300 plus pounds of water. Then you factor in the utility body, the weight of that, all the equipment, and on an F-350, we're getting pretty close to a 1-ton capacity. So I guess my question there is, should we maybe be looking at a 450 or something bigger that can probably handle that? Plus, if you're gonna be towing with it while having those things, with a 10 to 15-year useful life, I feel like we're kind of pushing the capacity and capability of an F-350 a little. Just something for you guys to think about there. And in terms of just like the 5,500 that we're talking about, just wasn't sure if you guys had an overall estimate of what it would cost to repair and replace that completely. A little familiar with the Cummins, turbo diesel engine that they have there. Really bulletproof. I know the Ace and 6-speed transmissions aren't as good, but just trying to get thoughts on those two things.
So as for the weight of the vehicle, so that was really what we talked about a lot, because, we knew the town was, the financial aspect of the town. So we went down to the 350. It can still meet the needs. Will it get a little bit more wear and tear than the 4 Series? Yes.
It was a trade-off.
It was a trade-off. What the cost
cost.
increase is for the 4 over the 3, I'm not too sure. If you're interested in knowing the cost difference, and recommending, a modification, seeing that we went from 450 to 212, definitely not going to say no to that. But that it does make a good point. Look at that. As for the 5,500, so were you talking about rebuilding the squad and keeping it? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, just basically like, I know those engines, they run forever, like 500,000-mile motors, but the rest of it, I'm not too sure about, so just kind of curious there. I don't think it's a viable option, but I think it's worth just bringing up, so that way, people in the town are aware of, we're basically going to end up paying probably pretty close to the same amount to keep an old vehicle.
Yep, yes. Yeah, we did look into that. That was a talk. Again, operationally, it doesn't really meet our needs, but if that was the option to keep it, there's not much cost savings because we would have to rebuild the motor and do that. But obviously, all the components on the frame and then the body itself would have to be refurbished, and that's downtime. And then, again, it's not going to last another 15 years, as this one is. So we did look at it, and we opted for the vehicle that we're proposing, just because it meets our missions better. It'll come with manufacturer warranties and gives us some more versatility, and it's something that's definitely going to last.
What's the expected warranty on a vehicle like that?
What does Ford give? What did the ambulance have on the chassis?
Yeah, it's 3 years, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 years.
I have a question.
Yep.
You, so you've downgraded from your proposal from last year, trying to be cost effective. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, both cost effective and, better meet our mission.
It does a better job of meeting what you wanted to do a year ago?
So when when the squad came up, it was like, okay, guys, we got the squad, now we got the rescue, now we're coming up to the squad. And we got, the department together, and we just started talking about the squad. And that's when we realized this really isn't something we need. Like, what do we really need? And when we built out what we really needed, that was the price difference.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so if we didn't have a looming overrides and, real concern by the taxpayers for overspending, so they seem to think in some of our larger vehicles in the departments that need them for safety and service. Are you saying you probably wouldn't be going with this particular model? You probably would have gone with the one from last year?
No, we probably would have gone with this vehicle, because when we reimagined it, I guess probably the only change we do, which was mentioned prior, was to go from a 3500 model to a 45 or a 5500 model, would be the only difference that we would have on that.
So let me jump in real quick, because I think it'll help. As I mentioned, we've always had a 10-year plan. So when I put something on the CIP 10 years ago, I'm not sure what the heck's going to happen 10 years down the road with the fire service. So every year we look at what's on that plan as it moves up and gets closer. But we don't look at it super close when it's 8 years out, because I don't know we didn't know COVID was going to hit for sure. We don't know. I mean, we're dealing with stuff now that I never thought we would deal with in the fire service. So as it gets closer, so that last year we really dig in deep. Okay, that's when we start looking at it really closely. Say, you know what? We need this. It's going to go up 400,000, or we need this. It's going to go down 200,000. So that's when we really dig in deep as we're coming in closer, because we really feel we have a better grasp on what's going to be expected of us in the fire service, right? Are we going to be dealing, with terrorism more this year? Is that going to be more of a catch-all? Did our EMS calls go from 68% to 78%? Are we dealing with more brush? What are we dealing with? So we have to, that last year is really the year we can dig in, take a look, do a little bit better projection of what we need, and that's when the changes occur. So that's how we made the change.
Did you say the $450,000 vehicle was in last year's CIP?
It was
Last fiscal year?
it wasn't to be purchased last year. It was in the plan already. It was to be purchased this year,
Oh, okay.
right? So
All
I'm
right.
saying is we
So
did.
you just got into the final year and reconfigured your thoughts of what you really needed.
Correct. Yeah, and where we're going as a service, where we're going as a department, what do we need to do? What really suits us? And that made more sense at this point in time.
I guess for me, I would eliminate the whole idea that you took it from a $450,000 purchase down to a $212,000.
Yep.
12,000. I wouldn't even go into that. This is what you're asking for. It suits your needs.
Yeah.
I think trying to explain to all of us and at town meeting that you sat down and you really realized you really didn't need that money. Then they just question, like, why did you have it there? And then you have to go into your long explanation.
While I agree
Does that
with.
make sense?
It does, but someone's going to look and say, well, last year you had it for 450,000. Why'd you change it? So then it looks like we're not trying to, like, are we hiding something, or, what do we do differently? So the idea is to give you the information now, and what'll happen in town meeting, I can't speak to it, mainly because I won't be here. But it's just a matter of, for this group, we want you to know, if I'm making a change, if I'm dropping something by 200,000, or I'm doubling it, you need to know why. And that was the purpose behind the deputy's comments.
Okay, thank you.
And just a quick follow-up. So was this voted on last year? Was this part of the warrant? or
No,
this is
that's,
just-
this,
Okay.
this
Part
was
of our
on the,
10-year plan.
this was on the plan.
So it just moves ahead.
Okay.
And the reason and one of the other things with that plan is important to understand. I put things on that plan that I've never had to purchase because I was able to get grants for them.
Yeah.
Right. So we put stuff on that plan, and as it moves closer, we've done radios that way. We did our self-contained breathing apparatus, right? So there's things on there. That's why I've always been a 10-year plan fan, because it gives me an idea, ability to shoot at that. But we look closer and closer every year it gets, and then we refine it, refine. And then when we come up this year's when it's due, that's why.
Yeah. And how do you, I'm sorry, go
You've
ahead.
stated the funding mechanisms. Do you mind if I could just ask? You've stated the funding mechanisms that you'd like to apply to the cost of this. So are you giving your recommendations to the town administrator as she moves forward to decide how to fund the capital projects? Is that how this is working for you?
So the way it works is part of the form that we fill out has a section that says, what do you anticipate the funding mechanism to be? Right? And the funding mechanisms available to us are, we can do, if it's an engine, right, we go out to bid, or not bid, what's the?
Bond.
Bond, thank you. I knew beginning with a B, I was close. If it's an ambulance, all the ambulances come 100% from the ambulance revolving fund. This truck is kind of a split use truck, right? So some of it would be fire, some of it would be EMS. So it would make sense to us to present it in that split manner, and then let the powers that be decide how they want to do that. So our job is to make that recommendation of how it's to be used. It's the powers that be's job to decide how they want to do that.
Okay, but you're willing to use some of the funds, like have that discussion with the administrator from the EMS account and everything?
Yeah,
Is that
and
what you're-
more importantly
that's
than
what
the.
you presented, or?
Yeah, more importantly than the administrator, because while she's important, I'm more concerned having a conversation with Jason to determine that our fund can support paying for it through that. Because if we say, oh, we're going to buy an $800,000 truck through there, well, can we really support those
Yeah,
payments through that?
that's truly what my concern would be about it, because I know that's the source that, it's a revolving fund, but it is really well planned out what the money's going to be used for in terms of the transfer to
Okay.
underwrite the department's.
And he will
budget.
make the recommendations to Steph, because that's
yeah,
part of
correct.
the
Yep,
process.
correct.
Mhm,
I mean,
the
it would
job,
take- it would
yeah.
take some analysis.
So my point is, I just want to make that, I mean, as we go forward, and you're just the first department to come in, and you always come very well prepared, but I think for people that are watching, to realize that we're going to have a significant gap this year between what the town actually has in their CIP for this coming fiscal year and what we have for free cash. So if we were to try to fund everything that was in the CIP, we are going to have to more than likely go out to bond for some of this, which means it will make a direct impact on the tax rate. So I just think we need to keep that in mind as we plan, and you all talk, administrators to finance directors, and try to figure out how we piece this all together.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I would say this too, in favor of the 10-year plan, that's one of the reasons why we put together the 10-year plan. We're only really considering and looking hard at what's going to be coming forward to the next year's town meeting, but we use these for projections for debt to tell us whether we can afford to take on debt now within our debt policy. So it's basically, as these move forward, I understand that they refined what their request was going to be coming forward, but that it's not an unnecessary process to have things in the capital plan in the outer years. That it moves forward, and that's typically what we use it for, is for the debt policy to figure out.
Well, even an important thing, Jason, is with the ambulances, right? So we know when they're being replaced. If we didn't have that idea, wouldn't know if that fund will support the payments on there. So that's all very important.
Right, so speaking of the ambulances, I mean, those
Speaking of
ambulances are.
ambulances, oh, did somebody say something? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I-
I interrupted somebody.
Said the exact same thing.
Susan, go ahead. I'll finish what I'm
Okay,
saying.
speaking of ambulances, at one point in time, Chief, you made a presentation where you gave the impression if you could have one more full-time working ambulance, manned and equipment-wise, that you would be more profitable Is that, did I hear that correctly a year or two ago?
What we were talking about was when we were down, all the way down to one rig, and that's why we made that's why we said it's staffing. It's not so much trucks, but it's staffing. Because we had the trucks, we didn't necessarily have the staffing to staff that second ambulance all the time. With the SAFER grant, we can staff that second ambulance, and now we're not filling in mutual aid for that truck. We're actually sending our duty crews out in that truck. So that was the
So-
big difference.
So, and that's, you're collecting fees?
Oh, yeah.
That truck going out?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So have you done a cost analysis of what the increase of those bodies have done to what your EMS revolving account is able to take in?
What I've done is an analysis, and I don't have it with me, I'm sorry, of the transports and how many mutual aid transports we used to give away versus how many we don't give away now. I could then take that and say, okay, based on our average fee of whatever our ALS fee or our average BLS fee, I could figure out the difference. But I haven't actually done the dollar amount. I've done the transport amount, but I don't have it with me tonight.
Okay, you don't need to apologize because I do feel that it's more in the realm of appropriations, but I would love to see that you will be able to make some comments like that because I think it's important when people fight back about the new staffing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any more other questions?
Oh,
on-
so just the other point I was going to make was that we have 3 ambulances, so the oldest one maybe gets to be 9 years old because we replace one every 3 years.
This
So
one now is a 2013.
yeah, so I mean I know that
Yeah, that
that
was kind of a
plan
unique-
that plan somewhat changed with getting one from the other town and the availability of them, but every year we're incrementally budgeting for 1/3 of an ambulance, and the cost has gone up. So I would just want to make sure that if we were going to use that fund for a different vehicle in addition to the ambulances, I'd want to make sure
I agree with
have
you
it available.
1,000%. And again, the purpose of us putting that number in there is saying this is just where we think it can come from. That's not my decision to make. That's the town's decision to make. Whether, like, I could say, okay, I think this engine for $900,000 should come from free cash because I don't care what anyone else gets. That's not my choice. That's not my choice to make. I just have to say, traditionally, this is where this would come from.
I appreciate this conversation because I think there'll be a lot of people out there that are second guessing on where monies can and can't come from. So I think it's good to hear
Not my choice.
what you two just had to say. Thank you.
Yeah, just to close up that is that, we put it in there just to give the finance director and the town administrator an idea of this vehicle is eligible to be used out of that account. Whether you want to use it or not, but that's an option. So
Thanks.
the next one is,
So the only point I'll make is,
Oh, go
first,
ahead.
I think that this has, been a justified and well-thought-out acquisition. The only question that I have goes back to Ryan's comment, considering the load. And I don't know if, I'm not entirely clear, is that capacity of load something that would be more the norm or the exception? Because if it's the norm, then I guess I would have a concern that the wear and tear on it, if you're running at capacity of load,
Yeah.
it could be a problem. So I guess I'd be curious what the difference in price would be going from a 3,500 to a 4,500.
We can figure that out and let
Yeah,
you all
we'll
know.
look into that.
Be happy to.
Do you always run it with water?
Yeah. No.
Even if you're not-
That truck, yes. That truck always runs with water. Our forestry doesn't always run with water, but that truck always runs with water.
Okay.
It's stored inside.
Yep,
The
okay.
forestry's stored out in the garage out back, so we can't keep the pump wet.
Got it.
So.
Okay. I mean, I just have two quick comments. Number one is I do think it is worthwhile talking about the change in cost, right? Because I think at this year's town meeting in particular, I think people will appreciate that for whatever the reason is, that you guys are looking at that and focused on that. And then the other point was, who makes the decision about trade-in versus sale? The 10,000 versus the 60?
So previously, we didn't have, that's the way it was done. Okay? Now that we have garage available to us, now that's the path we're following now.
Sale.
So we sell.
yeah, the dry sale.
Sale or sale/auction. So it really depends on, we have to go, so the owner of garage, the owners, they will give us a guidance.
Okay.
This truck we're figuring for this, but we recommend you put it for sale because we don't think it'll do well at auction. Or we recommend you put it at auction because we think there'll be a competitive for it and it may end up being better that way. So we
Okay.
base it off of that.
So this one most likely will go for sale.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's.
Going forward.
That's the avenue that we'll try to go, because, you know, our job is to maximize the amount of money we can get back for
Yeah,
it.
sure. Okay.
Scott, I just want to say I agree with you. I just thought in the beginning it looked like they were justifying spending less money and not getting what they really needed. But I agree with you that they've now made their case they're asking for what they actually need.
So the next one should go pretty quick. It's, you know, it's less of a entailed vehicle as the squad, but instant command vehicle. So it's a 2014 Chevy Tahoe LS. LS, again, this was purchased prior to the Chief Endai. I think it got delivered when you got here, actually.
It was here before me.
The LS model we'll talk about, but that's, you know, kind of an upper model than a normal fire service vehicle. This was, a 10-year vehicle, 25, we moved it for some operations. Again, the mileage, we talked about the ISO miles, is 124 on a gas Tahoe. There is frame, body rot, rust oxidation. It's got, I don't know how many radios, like 7, so it's got 7 antennas on it. This thing could talk to the space station, I guess. I don't know what they could do, but all those drilled holes in the roof, over time, you get some leaks in that. It's got four-wheel drive issues. If you put it in four-wheel drive, it wants to stay in four-wheel drive, and more than once we've had to take it to the Chevy dealer to have them manually take it out of four-wheel drive. It's the same issues with the radios that we talked about. Same thing about unsecured equipment. The same thing with the gear, and the command module is not, doesn't really meet the needs of what we're doing now. Here's some of the pictures. This is the underbody of some of the rust and rot. And again, this vehicle is available to look at in person if you so choose. Some more oxidation, some more rusting on. That's the door jamb, the back with that, and there's all the antennas. That's a couple of them. That's not all of them. Just give me an idea.
How quickly can we get away from this? Just looking at that frame, that thing's dead.
So this, one point, actually, because we talked about the delay on fire apparatus, these aren't fire apparatus purchases. So these are from regular dealers. So to get, a Chevy Tahoe that they're just going to put stuff into, the turnaround's, I don't know, maybe 6 months.
Yeah, it's much faster. We go to, there's a couple dealers that deal specifically in, so this is, we purchased from the same company we'd purchase a cruiser from.
Yeah.
Police cruiser. And they do the outfitting for us and all that, and it's all part of that.
So the turnaround time's
This
pretty,
was originally this was pushed out a year, because I don't remember why we pushed it
it
out.
got pushed out because of the ambulance,
Oh, because of the ambulance, that's why we pushed it out a year,
It jumped the
because we
rescue.
ran into the issue with the ambulance.
the rescues.
May I ask, is this a take-home vehicle?
Yep.
Yes.
And is it garaged?
In the wintertime, yes. My poor Ram sits
Thanks.
outside. And that's just for ease for me. But, so as you can see, the gear and the radios, there's a couple of the radios, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. This would be the replacement picture. Again, just a kind of an idea of what it would look like. The back area of what a command. So with this, they make a box in the back. You can put the gear in. It's secured. We already have in this picture, we already have this command module in the current vehicle, which can be moved over to this vehicle, so we wouldn't have to buy one. And then just your regular center console. So the highlights on it. So it would be, we'd look at a special service vehicle, whether it's a Ford or a Chevy, but we're looking at the Chevy to stay in with it. It's the lower government production model. So this is what every government agency buys: police, fire, EMS. The vehicle that was purchased currently was an LS model. The chief at the time purchased a little higher grade. So it's very similar to what the police use for their command vehicles. With the simplification on the radios on this one, we'd go from 7 to 2 with remote heads. So 2 bodies with a less expensive head, so you can be in the back using the radios that are in the front.
Right, and the reason 2 and not 1 on the other ones is the incident commander needs multiple frequencies to operate an incident on, so that's why you need 2 radios.
We go with a Tahoe style versus like an Explorer style. You know, it maintains some towing capacity, redundancy. Obviously, it's before drive for our response. Simplified emergency lighting package. You know, this is, you know, it's a command vehicle, but it's an administrative vehicle. It doesn't go to as many calls, and it doesn't need to be at as many calls so quick. So there's no reason to put a bazillion lights in it. More lights is more money. And the command module, you know, again, same thing, protection exposure, secured, you know, would better meet it. And then, you know, we can use it for transport. For the breakdown, 98 is what we're looking at. But again, the vehicle itself is about 55. And then the equipment's 20. And then there you go. There's your cost. 2 radios, $23,000. And then, so again, with the trade, not as much trade value in this vehicle. You know, if we direct sale, it may be 10 versus 5, and same aspects on that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with this vehicle, although the frame's in tough, we maintain our vehicles. I mean, they had the regular oil changes, the regular, you know, it's not, so it does still hold its value.
So I guess to start off, question one is, we talked about kind of sticking with like consistency among brands. So flipping from Chevy to Ford is a little strange. That being said, I do love the LS engine that Chevy comes out with, great gas powered engine. But I hate Chevy frames. Like that 2014 looks like every Silverado I've seen in my entire life. So just kind of wondering about the choice of Chevy over Ford there for trying to stick with the brand.
So Chevy is what we had, and so that's what we stayed with, the consistent on that. The streamlining of the same type of manufacturer of Ford, so that one was more for maintenance, so it would be the same engine, you know, where this would have the different engine. So that's where the streamline on that was. You know, what we are going to look at the Ford Expedition to match them up. I have found, you know, talking to other chiefs, there's not many that go with the Ford Expedition. I don't know if it's a cost thing. You know, we haven't got into, you know, any kind of award, so we haven't driven down into that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good, great. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you all, I appreciate it. And again,
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Oh, still here,
sure, Sue.
still here.
Listen, I don't think I'd be doing my job if I didn't ask. On our recent capital plan, we supported a fire station building. And I think that this is an appropriate forum for you to just give us a quick update on how the building project is going. I would love to hear that in this forum.
I got to tell you, I've learned more about building the darn fire station than I ever thought I wanted to learn about building a fire station. Where we currently are is the CCU walls, so the walls in the apparatus bay have started to go up, and the walls in the training tower have started to go up. The mock-up is being produced. So what the mock-up is it's a complete build of a wall, including a window, and it's done to all the specs. And the purpose of it is twofold. Number one, you can see the different colors and how they work together that's been spec'd. But more importantly, you find out if the GC builds it to the spec that's listed, and then the designers come in and look and say, yeah, that's going to be weather tight. Yes, this is going to work. No, that's not going to work. The engineers come in. So that's really the big reason for the mock-up. It's done for most large projects like this. You can drive by and actually see it. It's to the east of the site, and you can see it going up. All the flat work they're looking at starting probably in the next couple of weeks. By flat work, I mean the pouring the slabs in the administration side of the building, which is the western side of the building. The substantial completion date is set. Before I get into substantial completion date, steel's going to arrive on scene on November 14th, 15th. They're supposed to start putting steel up, and because it's such a tight site, they'll be bringing steel in, putting it up, bringing steel in, putting it up. They're still working on the retaining wall design. My guess is right now the retaining wall, you're not going to see anything going in until sometime in the spring or the summer. The substantial completion estimate right now is November 15th or 16th of '26. And the total completion estimate right now is right around Christmas of '26. The big difference is that last month is for all of your punch list type things, right? So it's difficult if you move in there when it's not completed. So it's substantially completed, we could move in there, but then you have all the people coming around and fixing dents or fixing this, or it's not balanced properly for the HVAC, or that's going to, so that all gets done that last month. And then the intent would be to move in December of '26.
So is the whole footprint right now ready for flat work?
No, so no, because they're still doing underground, plumbing. No, they're doing underground plumbing and electrical in some areas, and they're backfilling that. So the administration side will be ready before the other side is ready.
All right, the reason for that question is I want to know if all the contamination has been
Everything
discovered.
in that footprint is done.
For that, yeah, where they're doing the flat work.
Yep,
but the other-
everything, all that excavation and that, the only excavation left that could possibly have an issue with that would be under the trailers out front. Because the trailers, where the construction trailers are. I think at the last fire station building committee, the LSP did an amazing job explaining everything and how we got where we are and all that information. He really did. If you haven't had a chance, take a look at it. It's great. Rob Berger's awesome, and he just did a really good job explaining everything, I think, in my opinion. Does that cover what you?
May I ask who will replace you when you leave in April?
I am irreplaceable. Haven't you learned that yet? Come on.
Well, I'm asking because it seems to be a true statement. So what thought has been given to this, or is it actually something that's specified by the state on that it has to be the fire chief to replace you? I'm just curious because
so
you're going to have,
you're talking about
you're gonna
on-
have some last few months.
You're talking about on the committee, right? Or
What?
are you talking about replacing me as the fire chief or replacing me as part of the fire station building committee?
Well, as part of the fire station building committee, I didn't know whether or not the state expected that the fire chief would serve on it. So is that what will happen?
That is a decision for the town administrator right over here to make. She's the
Okay.
she's the appointee for the appointee. She's the person that appoints the fire station building committee.
Okay.
I would strongly recommend that the deputy chief be put in at least as a liaison, because you need someone who knows what they're talking about for a fire station, right? Because it's not like you're building, widgets. You're building something that's very unique, and I would strongly recommend. And my intention is to do this. So, and I attend a meeting every Wednesday at the construction site, and then we have the fire station building committee, and then we have engineering meetings, and then we have PCO meetings, and we have CO meetings. There's tons of them. I've already spoken with the deputy. He's going to start attending these meetings with me probably in December, towards the end of the year. So he is not coming in cold and has an idea, because, like I said, I'm really deep into this right now. I know more than I want to know. But that way the deputy will come in, he won't be jumping into a cold. He'll have an idea where we are moving forward. But any appointments to the committee, if there is any appointment to the committee, because it doesn't have to be, is done by the town administrator.
Okay.
I hit that
So
right,
you
Steph?
are at least planning a succession plan as far as making sure the needs of the fire fighters are being met.
Very much so, because again, I'm involved in every aspect of this build, and I don't want to walk out the door at the end of March, beginning of April, and have someone walk in cold and go, so what's going on? That's just not fair to anybody. Okay, so the intent is to have the deputy start coming to those meetings. The only reason he doesn't come now is because he's doing other things that he needs to do. So he'll start coming to those meetings at the end of December, beginning of January, attend all those meetings with me, understand where we're going from there, and that way it should be a seamless pass-off.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And if I don't get a chance to talk to you again in a public situation before you leave, I want to thank you for all that you have done to bring that fire station to fruition. So thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Sorry to go out, that was a good way to end, but I did have another question that I wanted to ask, and I'm sorry to prolong this even longer, but you guys have been so thorough and
That's fine. That's
detailed
fine.
with your presentation,
That's why
but
we're here.
at the August 2024 summit, there was some talk about a large-scale communications needs of the town. And I know you folks brought up
Yep.
the radios. Some communities, the dispatch works within the fire department. In this community, it's obviously within the police department. You work closely with the police department on public safety issues.
everything,
and
yeah.
And you know, you mentioned it tonight, communications are ultimate importance. And you mentioned the radios being not interoperable. The communications will go over my head really quickly if we start talking about it, but I know ARPA funded a consultant
Yep.
to do, you worked with the police chief on engaging a consultant to come up with a communications plan. Do the radios work? And I know I've heard this before, but like mutual aid is impacted by the ability to communicate with the other communities
So
around.
we can talk with everyone with the expensive radios, right? So for instance, let me give you an example. We run on 154 and change. So our frequency is here. If we have a major incident in our town, we go to our District 14 red channel, which is a VHF, I'm sorry, it's a UHF, not a VHF.
Oh, I'm sorry, I asked.
And, well, you ask, and we all operate on that same channel. So I would say all incoming apparatus go to District 14 red. Everyone, and as the deputy said, you know that 2,000 channels, everybody has that District 14 red. They'd bring it up, we'd all talk to each other. But let me answer your first part of the question, because that's really important. And that is that study that we did for the radio system. So we did, as Jason mentioned, we did a study that includes fire, police, DPW, and schools. That study has been completed just recently. We haven't brought it forward yet because it's super complicated and we don't want to blow up anybody's heads, like you said, with currently with everything that's going on. So the intent is to bring that forward, won't be me at the time, but it'll come forward with the recommendations of that person. Now, the radios that we're proposing, all of that effort, will all work seamlessly with those proposals. So there's a term you may have not heard, it's P25 compliant. P25 compliant means those radios are interoperable compliant with anything that they need to be. And that's what our new radios are, all P25 compliant.
But just to acknowledge that there may be a large capital project coming that's not acknowledged in our capital plan currently for this communications.
Very accurate statement. I can tell you that, should I tell them? I don't want to take, you're probably talking $3 million to $4 million, okay? Now, we're looking at various funding sources as well. There's state grants, there's federal grants, there's lots of different possible funding mechanism. And it also depends on what final decisions are made. And again, I'm not going to be around to make that decision, but how the system is set up. Is it a 3 antenna setup? Is it a 4 antenna? Is it a 2 antenna? So a lot of that stuff plays in. Are we changing from VHF to UHF? So a lot of that all plays in to the final cost. And I'm giving you a ballpark of what we looked at, and that will be coming forward eventually probably from the chief, the police chief, and whoever the new fire chief is.
You're saying, what year are you saying?
We don't have a year set for that yet. That's why it's not in the plan. We asked for the ARPA funds because we need an expert in that field because it is so. It goes over my head, Jason, because when you start talking about land mobile radios, and then you go from digital to analog to trunked, and then you have simulcast systems versus standalone system, it gets, and where it covers and what frequencies we can and can't use, it gets super complicated. So what the intent is Steph, is to have this guy that did it come into a select board meeting and present it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he'll say, this is what it means, and this is what our recommendations are, and this is what the timetable is. So there are certain things that we'd have to move ahead with sooner because they're at end of life. There's other things that we can do out a little bit later, but we have to look at that and say, is that really a cost-effective way to do it? So that'll all be presented in that presentation by the gentleman that did the study for us.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry to prolong.
No, that's a very important question.
All right. Any other questions for the chief and the deputy?
Please come down to the station whenever you want. see what we're talking about. That's important. If I say, this is a command vehicle, and you go, what's a command vehicle? Well, come on down and I'll show you, right? So that's very important.
Chief, we're probably going to take you up on that for one reason. I'd like the committee to walk through and around the existing Pierce Street building, since that'll be surplused in a year and change.
Very accurate, yep.
And it's got some peccadillos in its design, so I think, we went to last year to take a look at it, but I think with a different pair of eyes. So at some point in time, we're going to
Sure.
reach out to you and ask for your hospitality.
You just let us know. We'll be
Thank
happy
you.
to have you down.
Appreciate that.
All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you all. Be safe. Thank you. Well, moving right along. Jason, finance update.
Yeah, so, thank you. I put in the packet tonight a memo I wrote to the select board to explain the results and where the town's free cash came from. I just wanted if the committee had any questions for me about this information, I want to be prepared to answer anything, because I know, I think the last committee meeting on the, was it the 8th, that was held, we didn't really have much opportunity to talk about the details. If there were any questions, I'm happy to answer them from this body. Other than that, I didn't have much more to add than that beyond sharing the memo.
I think it was a very thorough memo.
Thank you.
Personally, it's something I want to digest more. Okay. I don't know about the rest of the committee.
Well, if anybody individually wants to reach out to me if they have questions after they look at it, feel
Okay.
free.
Good.
And then within your packet is the most current numbers for the CIP as a whole, for the 10-year CIP. And to that end, the administrator and I will be working together on developing a free cash plan. That has not happened yet, but we're planning to present that to the select board at their November 17th meeting. The November 17th, I should have put a bullet in here for the FY '26 budget, so we go from 25 to 26 to 27. But the '26 budget, there will be the actual budget will be set following the decisions made at the classification hearing on the 17th. And at that meeting is when we're planning to present the free cash plan for the select board's support. And that will involve determining how much of our free cash that's certified will be used for the operating budget and how much will be applied to the capital plan. So skipping ahead to the FY '27 10-year CIP update, if you look down to the bottom of the last page, as you can see, FY '27, the requests total $10.5 million. So even if we applied all of our free cash, it's obvious that there's a gap, but some of these items are funded from enterprise funds. And again, as we talked about having the 10-year plan, this is why we assemble these numbers, so we can make projections of what potential debt impact would be if we funded everything in the plan.
My observation of that, there were two line items that have 53% of that 10 million and change, the Z roof and the Assabet Hill drainage.
Correct.
They're $5.5 million. So two
Yeah,
items are a
so-
big chunk.
So, it's making some of these assumptions of, subtracting out the enterprise funds, assuming we continue funding the high school's pay-as-they-go capital assessment through the tax rate. Subtracting out what we assume may be CPA projects and funded by the CPA. Subtracting out 50% of the Z School roof project, the $1.8 million for that project, assuming we're getting 50% reimbursement from MSBA. That total comes to $6.4 million. So $6.4 million versus, say we had 2 million, 3 million, 4 million of the 5.25 to apply to the CIP. There's definitely decisions to make in terms of priorities and whether we want to incur debt to fund the balance of the capital plan.
Okay. All right.
And that concludes what my
Okay.
comments.
Thank you. Any other questions before we get to public comments? No? We have no members of the public present. Anybody coming in, raising their hand online? Seeing none, we'll move along. Any other business? Future meeting dates. In the agenda, we've got tentative dates for police, the schools, DPW, and the planning and CPC in the coming weeks.
Through the chair, can I make a couple of comments?
Please.
These are tentative dates. We're trying to set these meetings for Tuesday evenings.
Okay.
There have been some changes since we put the agenda together. The police department, November 4th, the police chief was available that night, but looking at the calendar, there's a Peaslee School Building Committee that I'll have to attend, and one of our members is a liaison
On the
to that
4th?
as well.
Yeah.
On the 4th. That meeting on the 4th, I believe it's probably to report the results of the meeting with the MSBA. That will be part of the designer review panel, choosing an architect for the Peaslee School through the MSBA's process. That meeting's in the morning, so that evening it dovetails with the meeting among the Peaslee Building Committee in the evening. So anyway, the police department will have to be rescheduled to another night.
Is it possible we could do Thursday, the 6th?
That was one of the blackout dates for the police chief anyway. I could try to reorganize it so that somebody else could come in on the,
Saying move somebody else around?
yeah, it may be hard because some of the upcoming, so looking at the calendar,
There's one behind you. This is the revised date for planning in CPC too, right? The
yeah, the
okay.
December 9th would be the planning date for the CPC and
Not the 16th?
not the 16th,
Okay,
correct?
so December 9th.
And DPW would move to the 16th.
Okay.
So I think potentially December 2nd, if we were going to stick with a Tuesday schedule, could work for the police if you want to pencil.
Tuesday,
Oh, there's
December
another,
2nd.
there's another Peaslee Building Committee, I'm sorry, that night. So how about
Third and 4th?
the,
November 3rd, there's a select board meeting. I don't know if that,
It's a Wednesday, Steph?
oh, sorry, nope, that's not right.
how about the
Is that
11th?
some kind of planning that we could probably leave up to the chairperson and Jason to put some dates out there that work?
Yeah, we'll update the next agenda with
Fine,
that
I'm
date.
okay with that if the committee is.
Yeah, I do want to
Following
ask you one
Tuesday, the
question
11th.
about meeting with the CPC.
Following
They've
Tuesday,
had
the
some
11th.
interesting comments in regard to taking a look at the town's CIP and seeing whether or not they should be doing more to help in funding some of those things as they move forward. Because there's a nice process that's getting started now from the Board and Selectmen's level where they submit applications, I believe, to Stephanie, and then she takes it to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and they either say yay or nay and pass it along, but they still get passed along. Have we done a real good deep dive into our capital plan to see that none of the things we're asking for this year could be funded by the CPC?
I mean, I think some of those things are being applied, like, for example, the planner's streetscape project, I believe that she's got an application to the CPC for that project. What else, Steph? Is
Well,
there
I know
another
the
one?
historical, that was just windows. I don't think there were many applications.
I mean, I think we do look at it pretty carefully, because the thing to be careful about with the CPA and the CPC in general is that it's not meant to supplant town operating budgets. It's meant to be for specific to the Community Preservation Act and the purposes called for under that. So that's one thing where we have to be careful that we can't be too cavalier with what we're trying to apply to the CPA, but,
Yeah, I wasn't really talking about operating budgets. I'm just talking about our capital items that,
Yeah,
are there any things there that might fit the criteria? And just taking a second look.
I would love somebody to take a second look, and I mean, I think we've looked at it carefully to try to see what might qualify, but,
Every little bit helps.
yeah, I agree.
Any other business, folks? If assuming we can get the departments done in November, December, we'll be looking together to get together and voting on these for our recommendations in January, I presume, assuming nothing goes bump in the night. Like that.
It's time for me to go to bed.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
that,
it's 2 hours past for him.
with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned at 9:43 PM, 9:45 PM. Thank you all. Thank you for staying so
Aye.
long.
Thank you.
All right.